Please rise to the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Paul Cuny.
Here.
Al Davis.
Here.
Charlie Keough.
Here.
Yay. Robert Laraway.
Here.
Brent Peavy.
Here.
Carol Shannon here. Dave Truckerson.
Here.
Right.
All right. We are all here. Agenda is before you. Any changes? Corrections, additions? Seeing none, we'll see.
Brent, didn't you want to add something on, or?
I did, but I didn't get a chance to really digest Tim's email that he sent about it, if it could be added or not. I skimmed it, but
It can, it's, the council can amend the agenda for meeting with two-thirds
Two-thirds
without
majority.
objection. Yeah.
So, did you want to?
I would like to add it, yes.
And what is it that you want to add?
Whatever the address is, I don't know how you want me to. 1100 Clubhouse Drive, the two garage
Okay, two garage.
discussion.
Put that under new business. Is there a second? There was motion to add that to agenda, seconded by Laraway. Any discussion? Roll call, please, because it's going to be 2/3 majority from each 5. to approve it.
Al Davis.
Yes.
Charlie Keough.
Yes.
Robert Laraway.
Yes.
Brent Peavy.
Yes.
Carol Shannon. Yes. Paul Cuny.
Yes.
Dave Truckerson.
Yes, 7-0. All right. With that, is there anything to be added to the agenda? Seeing none, by unanimous consent, we'll accept the agenda. Now the consent agenda. Anything to be taken out, examined, discussed? If not, Chair will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Davis, seconded by Cuny. Discussion, seeing none, I'll say in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 2003 President's report. I had an opportunity to come on to the Planning Commission, begin my journey into Lake Isabella Village management positions. And at that time, I met a young lady that was trying to keep me apprised of what was going on. And we had a different village manager at the time. When I asked this young lady about that village manager, you ever see those clocks that have the cat eyes and they go back and forth with the tail? That's the look I got. Kind of a high sign, I guess, because that manager was replaced. So she's been with the village for a long, long time. March was her anniversary date, but we didn't get the item when we needed to present her with, and then she wasn't here subsequently. So Jessica Manley, please come forward and accept this token of our appreciation for all the work and everything that you've done for the village of Lake Isabella. I'll let you take it out of the plastic package.
Right, Jessica.
Well deserved.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Keep Tim straight. Okay. In addition, we have a lot of things to discuss tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So it has a lot to do with the future of Lake Isabella, and it's taken a long time to come to this point. About the last year, we've been working on these things, so we have a lot of things to resolve tonight. So let's get our work hats on. That's all I have. Mr. King.
Well, obviously I'm Mike from King's Disposal. Michael could not be here. I already told Tim, but it's because he's on a golf league. So with that being said, he's doing stuff. Yes, he he struggles walking still, of course, but he can ride a cart. So he is golfing. He's with his brother golfing on a league in St. Louis. So Cheryl come up with it. So anybody that doesn't know Cheryl, this is my wife Cheryl. She's the boss of the operation. We came up here basically just to show our face. There's some new board members that don't know of us, but don't really know us. We're a small family company. Al's put up with us for quite a while, so he don't count. Yeah. So there's a few things that we're looking at in the future. I've talked to Tim about it a little bit. Actually, I said something to Charlie the other day. We're looking at getting Michael an automated truck, one where you just run a joystick in the cab, you don't get out. It's not the complete answer for the way we do our route up here, but we're gonna try it up here to start out with. It is the future of the trash industry. When I said I was gonna do this, I said I would never do that because I'm hands-on. I like talking to people. I like talking to my customers. If you don't get out of your cab, you're not really talking to your customers, but we need to look at this for Michael. And the trial run's gonna be up here on seeing how to do it, how to teach the customers, how to teach ourselves how to run it. If we don't go this way, we're the dinosaur. So we do have to stay, in progress with the bigger companies. And that is one thing we're gonna be doing. It's called an ASL truck. Automated side load is what it stands for. So that's one of the things we're doing. It won't work on large item day, so it wouldn't even be up here for that or anything like that. But then we'd put a helper on with Michael. So he's still you guys are gonna have to put up with Michael as long as this is his lake. He said that this is his lake and he will be back here. So that's and another thing he wanted me to bring up is to let everybody know about the July 16th pay it forward golf outing we have right here at the lake. Last year, what it is, they put it on for Michael as a fundraiser for him. He does not like handouts. He found another person that needed the money more than him, and they raised like $6,000 for that person. It happened to be another garbage man that got killed. He gave it to their family. So they're doing that again on July 16th. It's right here at the lake. I think you have to go on the Pine Scum website to do anything. The kids are doing it. I'm not, I just had to mention it, I guess. The guys, the drivers that are up here wanted to thank who's ever doing it. As far as the police presence that you guys are showing now, you're getting some cars to slow down for us, not just for us, for everybody around your lake. We've been seeing a cop quite often, and I think it's helping. It's helping us for sure. We have lights flashing every which way. That don't matter. Sometimes we're just in people's way when they're in a hurry. So we wanted to thank you guys for that. And as far as anything in the future, we are up here at 7. We're usually out of here around 10:30. We're doing it as fast as we can. Every hour that our trucks are on the road costs us money, especially now with fuel, labor, all that. Fuel's a pain right now, as Brent could probably tell you that as well. But the other reason we're up here is if you guys have any questions or concerns for us on how anything's went since we've been doing it, or any future plans, if you guys had anything for us, any questions.
Just thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you guys.
Yeah.
We enjoy being here.
And we know the brains behind the outfit.
That's why she's here. That's why she's here.
So thank you.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you. And we do thank Jessica and Tim too. They put up with a lot of questions we have for them. They always give us answers. Even if it's wrong, we believe them. And we move on.
That's true of us as well.
Well, hey.
Okay, thank you. Tim, up to your report.
I have a brief report tonight, just based on the length of the agenda. I wanted to keep it rather short. I did need to move the scrap tire day to August 20th. There's just too much right now on my plate to make it happen in a couple of weeks. And I also didn't know with my own doctor issue whether I was going to be available or not. So that's pushed back to the end of August. We are currently looking to hire a part-time code enforcement officer. We have one application in for the position. Our attorney is still working on the show cause hearing for the blighted property on Cordova that we're going after. The planning commission at their meeting this month made their first full through review of the comprehensive zoning update. They are targeting July for their public hearing, which means you could see it on your agenda in July if they move it out. You will need to hold a public hearing, so the earliest you could conceivably adopt it would be August on that time schedule. You're absolutely more than welcome to, pause longer, review it, but it's done for the most part. We're going to go through one more time on editing, that type of stuff. But in your package, you have the 2021 calls for service from Isabella County Central Dispatch. You also have historical data going back to 2017. We have data all the way back to 2004. We isolate 17 for a reason. That was when the Sherman Township Marshal retired September of 16. So the annual data set from 17 forward reflects the current law enforcement reality for our community. Calls were up a little bit this last year. I think we're 850-ish for calls, give or take. I bring this up because the council has discussed at length and at times, do we want to have a proposal on the ballot this November to fund policing in some aspect? And if the council does desire to move forward in that direction needs to be set probably tonight. So I can get something on your agenda for next month. Other than that, Joy said she was happy to do flowers in this year. She's targeting the week of May 30th. And we need to replace our lawnmower. It's met its match in life, so it's not in the budget. I've got some ideas on where I could take some of that. We have capital outlay, 15,000 earmarked for a vehicle. This would be capital outlay, so take some of that money to pay for this.
Excuse me, how can you take it from the vehicle? It's $15,000 in today's world. You can't get much for 15.
Great question.
I mean,
Didn't get a car.
I'm not crazy about getting the third vehicle, but I mean,
Yeah.
if you're going to, you want to get something halfway decent. If you take anything for 15, you might as well just.
For a code enforcement vehicle, we're looking at like a Edge Escape style vehicles, and you can pick up a mid 2010 model for 12-ish.
Can you?
And
That's in decent shape. Okay.
we're not gonna drive it a ton. I mean, it's 2-3 days a week. It's code enforcement is what we're looking at. So
Is there any way you can share one pickups? Isn't there 2 pickups?
well, that introduces a world of accounting issues because those are purchased through our street funds, not our general fund. And code enforcement is a general fund expense. So that's why there's a vehicle issue in that component. We can do a rental fee. The problem becomes winter when we need 2 trucks to plow. We can't do code enforcement then.
What, is there less code enforcement going at that?
There is only because I don't go out and do it.
How many miles would a code vehicle probably drive a year?
Well, we have 26.25 miles of street. That they're gonna do that every shift at least, and probably twice, give or take. So you're looking at 100 miles a week, 5,000 miles a year, that type range.
The reason I asked, what about a lease? I wonder.
Oh, that's a good question.
Just to see where we're going. Do a 1-year lease on something.
Yeah, for nothing to do less than 10, you might as well.
Yeah,
You know, I have to consider for planks and
yeah.
fall visits. Can all be done on regular tours. I would think that'd be very conservative number there.
5,000 miles.
But it wouldn't be more than 10, would it?
It wouldn't be more than 10 now.
And 10 is really the breaking point for a lease, isn't it?
Usually.
Yeah.
I've never leased, but I
Can't-
don't know. I wouldn't wanna
That's
go
not
over
well.
all that.
No,
That's on the docket later
we'll
tonight.
talk about.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
That's what I've got for you folks tonight.
Any other questions? for Jeff? Okay. Let's go to Township.
Just got a couple of quick things. I'll keep mine brief as well. Wayman Days is happening July 8th to the 10th. They're gonna be doing fireworks on the 9th. They are doing the breakfast ale that you were asking about last month. They're doing the breakfast during the Wayman Days this year. So, I think, I'm not sure if it's the 8th and the 9th that they're doing it. But I'll find out more details for you on that one. I finally was able to get the Sherman Township Board to agree to a date to actually start talking about how to spend our ARPA money, because we haven't spent any of it yet. I do let them know that Lake Isabella makes up more than half the residents of that township. So if there's anything the village council wants me to push forward, talk about, ask about for ARPA funds, that too, please let me know. We are doing our meeting on June 20th, which is right before our next meeting next month. So we're gonna go in, I think about 6 o'clock or so, and start talking about how we want to do that. So if you want to get anything on that agenda or want me to ask about anything, let Tim know and he can tell me. We go from there. And then Fire Chief Livermore told me he had the report that I was asking for. I've asked him for it twice. He just forgot to get it to me. So I know it's probably comparable what Tim already got from there, but I want to see the report anyway, just to compare what details are on that. So as soon as he's out to get it to me, I'll forward it to Tim so that you guys can see that. And that's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. And bipolar report. Anybody? Again, we just had liaison committee meetings. So I guess-
The LFUA stuff, I think one of the things, main things they were talking about is they're setting up, trying to set up, constantly talking about how they're gonna handle dock fees coming in, because normally April 1st is your due date for your dues. And then we end up getting to where dock day ends up being, I think it's roughly 2 weeks after your, well, they're getting people coming in between those two and claiming that they want to pay for their docks, when really they shouldn't be, because they were supposed to be due by April 1st, and then you get people that are coming in the day of dock day and saying they want to pay for their docks that they haven't paid for yet. And that's causing some issues and stuff like that. So now they're trying to work out different ways on how they're gonna end up handling that. I think it's, from what we heard on the last meeting, they're now gonna require any dock payments, instead of being done by April 1st, has to be done by the day before dock day. And so that changes every year. I think that's what George's planning on putting into to the billing or whatever, saying that your dock payment has to be in before the day before dock day. And if it isn't, and you lose your dock, you gotta come in and hopefully get it the next day. So it's been a little bit of a headache watching them go through all of it, but it is what it is. And then the other conversation that was had between Dave and I both asking questions was how they're gonna handle the judging, how they're gonna handle with this other stuff, and they are stuck right now to where they wanna talk to their lawyer and get their lawyer that they work with them. I'm not sure what her name was, but anyways, they're waiting for her to give them the blessing, saying that if we go forward and do this whole project, that there's no problem with intermingling money between the public and the private kind of stuff like that. I talked to them, they both said the same thing, that the information that we've given them over the last 10 years shows that we should not and will not have that kind of problem. I stated that emphatically, saying I don't understand why they're stopping at this point in doing this stuff, but they do know that there's a cutoff date for time to get stuff on the ballot, the language of the ballot and stuff like that, so hopefully they'll get that taken care of. So
They've had the information since a year ago.
Yes,
May.
Yes.
yes.
June 1st is when we began the discussions at a serious level last year, which they were encouraged at that meeting to talk to their attorney and.
And
start
we
working
gave
on
them
a
all the
joint agreement.
information at that time.
They've had those legal opinions at least 3 times going back to 2001.
So this is a timing issue of their own devise.
And I question who they're using as a lawyer, because I don't know who she is, but my guess is she doesn't have the experience that we have with Mr. Bloom and Roger. And I recommended to them that why don't they contact Roger or, you know, any of us of those guys to get a quicker, easier answer from a lawyer who's dealt with this stuff for many years versus paying some other lawyer who may not know much, and she can end up billing them 10 or 20 hours for all the research. she's
Well,
supposed to be
I
taking
think
care
we
of.
explained that these lawyers a year ago
Yep.
written books about this.
Right.
I'm trying to push
Teach
tomorrow
classes
by going to
about
their meetings, but. we'll see
Okay.
what happens.
Thank you.
Well, one thing that Jeff's missing is that their lawyer probably is not gonna have a report back for
3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks. So the compromises from the liaison meeting. timelines and stuff.
That's
So-
coming up later too. Yeah, we'll get to that.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Jeff. They didn't empower you to do this. You're just doing it because you went, right? So
Pardon
they didn't send you as a representative?
No, I'm just reporting to you as being a public
Thank you.
person attending the meeting,
Well-
so,
Yeah, and you're a member of LaPoa, so I guess.
yes, I am. So,
Point was there. All right. Let's have the first of our two public, the two public hearings, yeah. Ordinance 2201. Get there. Okay, public hearing is now open. Mr. Manager. This is at 7:24.
Your first of 2 public hearings this month is for a comprehensive update of one of our sections in our codified ordinances. Article 2 of the ordinance book deals with administrative type functions of the village, special assessment procedure, single parcel special assessment, civil infraction, ethics, village manager, purchasing policy, boarding committee compensation, code enforcement, structure, Department of Public Works, and Department of Public Safety. This was introduced formally last month by Village President Torgerson. You've had it on your agenda probably 4 months now. We've gone through it. We've had no public comment submitted prior to tonight's public hearing.
Okay. This is the portion of the public hearing where public may comment. Any public comment? Public comment. Seeing none, that portion is over. Anybody from the council have any questions for Tim? Chance to look it over? All right. Seeing none. Public comment period is over. Better go by that clock because we're going backwards with that one. 7:26. Close. What's your pleasure, council?
You need a motion.
Yep.
I make a
Motion
motion.
to accept 2022-01.
Mr. Laraway moves that we
I'll second
accept proposed ordinance 2201, seconded by Keel. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Robert Laraway,
Yes.
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Paul Cuny,
Yes.
Al Davis,
Yes.
Charlie Keel,
Yes.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes, motion carried 7-0. Okay. Resolution 2206, Broomfield Township Fire Protection. Public hearing. What page are we on now, Charlie? 44, 84? That's way down there. Okay. 86. Okay. Okay. This opens a public hearing for resolution 21, is it supposed to be 2206?
2206.
2206. Opened at 7:28. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chair, your second of two public hearings this month is for the annual renewal of the 1 mil fire protection special assessment that covers the Broomfield Township half of the village. That half of the village is showing up on the screens in the yellow area. The fine folks in the Sherman Township side of the village pay 1 mil directly to Sherman Township on their township property tax bill. Our Broomfield friends, including myself, pay 1 mil through the village that then pays the fire department. Everybody pays 1 mil. They're just collected differently in both sides of the township. This is the same assessment that's been levied since 2000. We've had no objections about this submitted prior to the meeting. We had a couple of calls just asking if it's new or what it is, but no one has filed any formal objections.
So part public comment. For public comment. Name and address for the record, please.
Edward Bayless, 1020 Essex Drive. This will not increase tax.
It's just, no, it's the same one.
It is just a continuation of the
Yes.
tax. Okay.
Any other public comment? Public comment. Seeing none, portion is closed for public comment. Council members, anything?
I have one comment, that is that your homeowner's insurance, if you notify them, should be reduced.
Mhm.
Because it's within 5 miles, I think is what, at least that's what mine requires. And mine dropped, when we did this, you guys did this years ago, but dropped in half.
Hmm.
So it's worth having.
Tim, what are we paying for?
We don't pay anything. We don't. No. Broom- I don't know what Broomfield pays. No, if we did not do this, the Broomfield have to be dependent upon Broomfield Township to get Wheatland.
In the time that it would take.
Yeah.
Wheatland Fire Department to get out to our peninsula. Don't call them. I think one time we did figure out the cost savings that the people in Broomfield got because of their savings on their insurance compared to what they pay for this 1 mil. I mean, they're saving money big time, huge.
Yep.
It's not just that, it's the safety issue. as
Oh,
well.
safety,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, any further comments? Chair will entertain a motion. Oh. Yes, we do.
Thank you. I actually know some.
Resolution 2022 is now closed public comment. 7, you give me the
Who would have
time.
thought, huh?
Yeah, 7:30.
Or 7:30 is good.
7:30. All right.
Okay.
Now, is there anybody that has a comment? Any further discussion? We'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept the resolution.
Motion made by Davis to accept the motion or resolution 2206. Is there a second?
Sure.
Second
I didn't
by
Gotta be somebody in
Shannon.
Broomfield Township.
Yes, it should be, shouldn't it? Good point. Okay.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yeah, Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Paul Cuny,
Yes.
Al Davis,
Yes.
Robert Laraway,
Yes.
Charlie Keel,
Yeah.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. All right, this is the portion of the meeting for public comment. Please your name and address for the record. And try to keep your comments to about 3 minutes.
My name is Thomas Anderman, and my address is 9977 West Jordan Road. I'm running for the 92nd House seat of the Republican Party. conservative, to say the least. My considerations, I think I can sum up by what the House and Senate did last week by approving a bill that in essence contradicts previous election ballot issue. They passed a resolution to have put back on the ballot an extension of current politicians' ability to serve more time in office, even though the state is already voted in term restrictions and limits. I've been going door to door since last August. I haven't run into a lot of people that have wanted to see more career politicians, but evidently Lansing's thinking that's a good idea. Put it up for the people. Roger Hout voted no for it, and I know I'm a little more conservative than Roger is. My background is in medical and health and administrative. Before I bought a farm to the west of here, I've got a 150-acre cattle farm that nobody here ever smells, about a mile away from the river. Got 9 paddocks, got COVID, had to sell the herd because I was so sick I couldn't find anybody to work because everybody was home getting free money. But I'm not really happy with what's going on in Lansing. And I don't know how to put it other than I had 2 years in Iraq where I spent waking people up and giving them the worst news of their life. That if you smoke, go ahead and fire one up, get a bottle of water, I'll grab one, sit down, because I'm here to tell you that your parents died on a motorcycle yesterday and I'm here to get you home. Somebody's got to do that kind of work. So I have experience telling people things they do not want to hear. And I think that's a valuable skill at this point in time in the state of Michigan. There's a lot of things that need to be said regarding things that are going on in the state and nationally that people just don't want to say anything about. And with my experience, I'm not afraid to say what needs to be said. I'm concerned with primarily that we have a constitution for the state that seems to be taken for granted or dismissed, depending on what day of the week it is down in Lansing. And I could say the same thing about Washington, D.C., but I think that's fairly obvious by now. So I'm running. I'm 66. I'm going to be 67 in July. I'm not looking for another career. I'm supposed to be working on food plots and hanging deer stands now, so everybody's flowers here stay good. But as a grandfather of 5, I want my children and my grandchildren to have a good education. I want them to have a good state to live in where they can afford to buy a home, where they can look at having a career here and enjoy the kind of opportunities that I received when I grew up in Michigan. I moved up here in '79. I moved out of Mount Pleasant to my in-laws farm and bought that from them. I had no intention going anywhere. Sherman Township designated a cemetery on that farm, and previous landowners and my son are buried there, and I will probably end up there, and I'm not going anywhere. So outside being a good neighbor to Lake Isabella, I enjoy having you here. I was down in Gratiot County today listening to stuff down there that they got going on. I know I can contribute from my background. I was a director of behavioral health for the Air and Army National Guard when I got back from Afghanistan. I was in Iraq for 2 years before that. The last job I had before I bought the farm was, figuratively speaking, right? Department of Defense, cost benefit analysis of their traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress disorder programming. The only other thing I've done in like real politics was that I was able to drag Social Security out on the rug in front of the Ways and Means Committee in Washington, D.C. in '94. The nation's taxpayers $4 to $6 billion a year forever because of a program that Social Security had set up that was basically giving $1 billion a year to addicts and alcoholics unmonitored, and then they would do $1 billion worth of alcohol and drugs and then bill populace again for $4 to $6 billion worth of medical services on Medicare and Medicaid because they were on disability. Got that
So
changed.
you've had experience with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I appreciate your time. I've got some cards here for folks. But seriously, it's a heart attack about doing the job. And I look forward to seeing everybody, and perhaps I'll be knocking on your door. I know I've already knocked on some of the doors of the folks here.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Yep. You have cards.
I do.
Okay, thank you. Other public comment? Public comment? Okay. Seeing none, let's go to existing business. Work begins.
Fun begins, folks.
Yes, here we go. Okay, Mr. Manager.
Well, there are 3 items on the community bond project that, for the schedule that both the village and association has had since maybe February, need to be acted on at this meeting. Those 3 items for tonight's purposes on our end of the equation were to approve conceptually the ballot language, to narrow in on what millage proposal the council wants to present to the community, and also finalize the memorandum of understanding, which the association has not even begun yet. So really, there are 2 actionable items and one that probably should spur some discussion. The first one would be the proposed ballot language for this November. Shall the village borrow not to exceed, fill in the blank. Here's the meat and potatoes, for the purpose of designing, acquiring, and constructing recreation improvements, including without limitation, non-motorized trails, a dog park, dredging, and other improvements to Lake Isabella, together with all work and equipment necessary or incidental to these improvements, and other recreation improvements determined by the village. If this language is satisfactory, a motion to be made to that effect, that the council supports this conceptually. We can have the final language on the ballot on the agenda next month.
Without limitation means,
Without limitation.
I think I know what it means, but could you define it for me, please?
Without limitation, so non-motorized trail, dog park, dredging, and other improvements to Lake Isabella. So the other improvements are to Lake Isabella. And
So-
the other recreational improvements determined by the village.
Okay, so without limitation means it includes, could potentially include it all. Is that what you're saying, or?
Yeah, it has to go to either recreation or dredging.
Got it, okay.
How that's divided up in the
Okay.
equation is to be determined yet.
Tim, why is there 11 years instead of 10?
Because you're not going to collect anything in the first year.
Okay. Good one.
Because you're not going to have it on your tax bill. If you approve it, the voters approve it this November, it'll go on the 23 tax bill. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Well, what's your pleasure?
Talk.
Well, let's have a motion and then we can talk.
Okay.
You don't want a motion.
I want to talk. Sorry, but if the rule says I have to have a motion, fine.
Well, you don't have to, but it just makes it more efficient. All right. What does the council think? Go ahead, Carol.
Thank you. Okay. Are we at the spot where we talk about the concerns involving dredging or not yet?
it's entirely your prerogative.
Okay, cool, thank you.
I'm just here to talk about money.
Well,
Okay, cool.
we're talking about
That,
Yeah.
and dredging,
language
is
first.
in it.
Part of it.
But this is just the ballot language.
This
We're-
defines the scope of what you're doing.
Yes,
So dredging would
so
be
it
the
could
most
be less than what we're talking about dredging or up to and including dredging. So all we're trying to do, right, if I understand this correctly, is to say, is that sufficient
Is this a correct?
ballot? And it's not the final copy.
No.
We can
Right,
change
right.
the ballot.
Okay,
So we can come to that discussion but this is the way I see it. Now, maybe you guys want to talk about it now. But if we approve that, does anybody see a problem with that? If we approve that, that just means that we've given him the approval to go ahead and start wordsmithing that, correct?
Yeah, you'll have a resolution on you'll have a resolution in some capacity next month, because next month's the deadline when you have to approve ballot language. Based on a
So
regular
he,
meeting schedule.
so he needs this information
Okay.
done, and then we can discuss
Okay.
all the other stuff.
Okay.
In case anybody was on the same track. And that's the way I see it. Is that the correct way?
Yeah, I mean.
So we're not giving final approval, we're just giving yeah, that looks good at this point in time, and something
Right.
could change.
Because we have to have
Okay,
something.
I'll
So
make a
then,
motion that we
okay,
do the recreation improvement bond proposal as it's stated on the screen.
I'll second it.
okay, motion made by CUNY to approve the first draft of the recreation improvement bond proposal. Seconded by PB. Is there any discussion about the proposal? That's what we're dealing with, just the proposal. We're not dealing with all the ancillary things. This is just so he's got to have something to work with.
Get started with it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that.
But I guess the question that I would have is, at this time, we don't need to concern ourselves with what percentage, what gets.
No,
Correct.
we've identified the two priority areas that we're gonna target, which is phase 1 and phase 2 of the trail network. So that's El Camino, and that's Queensway down to Bundy area. The intent of this is for it to be used as our matching fund to go after DNR recreation grant improvements.
We can't do the trail without,
We can't do the trail without.
we can't get a grant to match the funds, and that means we can't do the trail because we're not asking for enough to do the trail.
Realistically, our Parks and Rec plan pegged those two projects combined. Off the top of my head, I want to say at about 1.5.
Mhm.
So we'd be looking at 750 going towards recreation, identifying those project areas, with the rest being available for dredging,
Yes,
lake restoration.
and they don't always match the whole 50%. That's just what we're gonna ask for. But we can't ask them for anything if we don't have it written down.
Right, got it.
We can't, they're not gonna do it on a NIF card. Okay, everybody understand what we're doing and why we're doing it that way? Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Carol Shannon, yes. Paul Cuny,
Yes.
Al Davis,
Yes.
Charlie Keel,
Yes.
Robert Laraway,
Yes.
Brett Peavy,
Yes.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Now we're on to bond proposal or the second part. Okay.
Sorry
Proposed
about
bond amount.
So at last month's village council meeting, the council got 3 different scenarios to consider regarding bond financing. There was a 10-year and there were 2 12-year options. Based on the discussion at last month's meeting, we went back to our bond counsel, our bond agent, and had those scenarios rerun all at a 10-year cycle. So you have 3 proposals on the board that could be presented in terms of, here's what we're asking for. You have scenario 1, which has an average mill of about 2.5. That will generate $1.96 million for these 2 projects. Scenario 2 is a just under 2 3/4 mil. That brings in 2.16 mil. And the final scenario, close to 3, will bring in 2.36 million.
And you have a breakdown too of what that costs people.
Yep, so one of the things that we've done is we've taken all the parcels in the village and broke them down into different taxable value ranges. You have of our 2,300 give or take parcels, 90% are, under 100,000 in taxable value. And as Brent wisely pointed out at the last meeting, people are interested in what payments they're gonna have to make. Even at the 3 mil levy, the average homeowner, and by average, I mean all but the top like 300, are gonna pay less than $25 a month.
5 gallons of gas.
That's right.
2 gallons of gas.
I like that, that's good.
And we'll get a lot better mileage out of it.
Hey, we could go with diesel.
That's a tagline.
That is good, I like it.
Yeah. So we have to decide tonight is which one of these are we gonna go for?
Because at the next meeting, when you have a
Yep.
resolution for the ballot language, those blanks that you saw highlighted get filled in
Get
with,
filled in.
with this type of data here.
So if we look at the, on your computer, do you have that up there too, Tim?
Which one you want?
The taxable value range,
That one?
did you put, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep, on the right. So we have 1,095 parcels, 5,000 or less. So they would pay for 3 mills about $668. So if you look at it that way, over half our, then, well, like Tim said, the top 300 are gonna pay more. But most of our taxable value is 100,000 or less. Which means it's only, the small one is 212.
Can I throw something
Sure.
up? Just, I'm looking at the whole package as far as people looking at voting. One of the concerns I have is we're also going to look at the police department, okay?
Mhm.
Putting something out there. So,
Not a department.
not a department, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Money
you gotta be
towards-
careful not
Yes, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Thank you
Because that
for
gets out
correcting
there.
me. Yes, but we talked a little bit this afternoon, Tim and Charlie.
Mhm.
And, about limiting the amount of money you do for the police, but still having it out there to the voters, and that I want.
Mhm.
Like I said before, I don't have anything against it as long as they vote on it. But what I'm concerned about is when you start adding that to this, I'd like to keep it, that would make it at maybe, let's say, 4 mills, okay? When you add in the police or close to it, or 3.5, if you add that in. So we want to keep that perception in there
Right,
plus the
right.
police so that we come up with an idea of what we want to really spend. I'm not going against it.
Right.
If we think that the max should be there and then the police on top of it, okay, that's fine, but I just want to keep the whole package there, so we're thinking how
It's
much
gonna be two
people are gonna do.
Potentially, if the council wants to move forward with that. One of the things that discussed this morning with Charlie and Paul was, we don't necessarily have to think of the millage for police potentially being for a full-time deputy. You could scale that back to a half mil to continue the optional overtime agreement you have in place now conceptually. So I mean, there's other options out there that I think, a thoughtful discussion could flush out in terms of different options that aren't just, we're gonna hire a deputy full-time in the village, 40 hours a week.
One of the good things about that is if we did it and we actually got it on the tax roll, so people say, yes, we want to do it. And in 2 years from now, we could, if people are looking and saying, hey, this is really working out and we like it, we might say to them at that point in time, let's go for a full-time one, okay? So then we go for a full 1 mil instead of half. I'm just thinking working them into it.
So that you're saying then you'd go for the lesser, small?
I'm saying for the police,
Yeah.
I'm kind of jumping ahead.
Yeah.
I'm going to, on the police, yes, I'm saying, let's go to half a person. Because we're doing it under our current situation with the budget right now, because we have the extra funds in.
But this ties in with, where are you tying this in from what we're talking about now?
Okay, so then it goes to 0.5 mil, and then you're at 3, you're at 3.5, you're under 4.
So you're saying.
4. So I don't have a
So
problem.
I see what you're saying.
Or you could go at 2.5 and you could say you're at 3, I'm just trying to get the perception of people out there and they say, how much is this really gonna cost me?
Gotcha.
Because they're gonna look at the total package when they go into full 11,
Yeah.
yes, I'm gonna go place.
So we have to
yes,
keep this in mind when we're doing this.
Yes,
I
that's
get
all
you.
I'm trying to say.
Yep, yep.
If we go the whole amount on everything, that's fine, but just keep in mind, we got people with money. And they're gonna be going in there with $5 gas prices
And buying these $500,000 houses on the water.
There are some, that's the top half, that's not the bottom half, though.
Mhm.
You know, and you gotta get all the votes, you know, I should say all the votes, but you gotta get the majority.
Yeah.
So you do have to think of people
Oh, yeah.
in that,
But that's, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I'm looking at it as a little more conservative approach, you know, I'd be more inclined to go to the lesser amount. In my business, I can see the building business is slowing down
Yes,
it is
very fast,
yes.
very fast. Now, you know, you look at, you know, the 200,000, you know, mark there at 675. You know, and you jump that to 8, that's, you know, 150 plus, you know, and a few people will start losing their jobs, and then all of a sudden, there might be a few homes for sale, some of them big dollar homes.
Yeah.
So myself, I would look at the conservative approach, because like I say, it's slowing down big time. I've lost 4 people that were interested in homes have all canceled in the last 3 months.
that's interesting.
That's huge.
Yes.
Now you drive from here to Mount Pleasant and look at all the homes that are on the market that haven't sold. Last year, they weren't on the market a day and they all sold. You know, so that's telling you that the economy is going the other way. I personally don't want to burden the people with a high dollar. I'd rather stick with the lower dollar, do what we can do with that budget and go from there.
Bob, what do you think?
Well, I'm kind of inclined to agree with you.
With Alan?
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole economy is changing. Doesn't look like it's gonna turn around real quick. We just need to keep that in mind for the people.
Yep.
Because it's gonna be at the forefront of their mind,
Yes.
and I think we always do.
Tim, what do we presently pay for our police protection this year?
The monthly bills, Jessica, what,
15.
yeah, about 2,000 so far is all they've done, because again, it's an optional for
Right.
them, so people have to sign up to take it.
So we're seeing about 2,000 a month.
Yeah,
So we're
realistically,
talking
you know, it's set up for almost 2.5 times that amount.
Right.
Of what the agreement is structured.
Right. So we're looking at 25 at a max 30,000 cost for the annual.
Part-time.
Doing it the way we're doing it.
The
you're
way
saying?
we're doing it,
Okay.
part-time.
So based on the taxable value data that I got from the county Friday through Jessica, our taxable value went up 6% this last year. We're at 92.7. So a $500,000 request would be about 46,000.
So we get plenty of places.
Yeah, you could
Get
theoretically,
for,
Do for it.
it might even kick it up a little bit more than half of what we're doing. I mean,
So a $500,000 has potential of keeping us at a stalemate right there with what we got. If we like what we got, we could do that. So that's something for us to think out there, what's in that next step out.
Right.
Now we can think about what we gotta do in our bonding area or our trails and dredge.
I mean, I think it's important for us to remind everybody that's listening that this is COVID money for our police
Yeah,
protection right now.
right now,
We
right.
just had
We're
to
not
use it for
using
something.
ours.
It's not our money. So this is, we ran this as a pilot program to see whether or not it was helpful.
And I
We have-
think what
we have a
has
couple people
happened
that
is
know it
very
is.
good.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and I'll-
very good.
I'll tag on in Mr. King's statement. I've talked to 4 or 5 people in my district, my area, of course, too. Every one of them have noticed the increased coverage and a slight decrease gotten good feedback from everyone I talked to.
Yeah,
And
we
well,
look at the numbers.
It is a safety issue.
Yeah, we look at the numbers that they're showing us for the first 4 months. And I mean, yeah, they're doing a lot of stops. Yeah, but they haven't written a ticket. So they're doing a lot of education and visibility. So consequently, you know, where it goes in the future as far as deterring, you know, crime in our community. People know we got a police officer out there now.
The visibility is definitely there.
Yep.
As far as the education versus the enforcement, you and I are on different sides there because you educate a person to read a speed limit sign. He ignores it, you don't need to educate him again.
Brett, what do you think?
Besides the other, issues with the whole project, that we can't control. I mean, I'd like to keep it on the cheaper side, but if we need enough money to do it the correct way, if we need enough money to do it the correct way, there's no sense in, if we don't get what we want and really, the whole goal of the project, if we can't achieve that, what's the point of spending 2.5 mils? I'd rather pay an extra 100 or 200 bucks a year to have it nicer.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah, we don't want to be caught short.
right.
And that I didn't bring into when I
Right,
said my
right.
thing. So if we really think that we have to have it all, or we're just wasting our time, then that's a valid point right there. I don't know.
They're all pretty close to, like in the total dollars amount, even like the monthly stuff, or the yearly stuff, they're pretty similar. I guess if I had to choose, I'd pick scenario 2 because it's not the cheapest, it's not the most expensive, meet right in the middle, right?
That's sort of how I was leaning as well, in terms of presentation, if scenario 2 would buy us better, more positive response.
So is a third mill gonna get us in a year? A third of a mill instead of a half.
A third of a mil,
Well, isn't that what we're short if we did the million?
$30,750 based on our current taxable value.
And this current lease, this keeps it at 3, like you said. But I am sensitive to everybody's concern too, because who knows what it's gonna be like in November. We get big inflation. Nobody's gonna get anything.
I'll be honest with you, the majority say any of the numbers, I'm behind it, because like I told you guys before, if the voters vote for it, that's all I'm asking.
Yep.
Give them a chance to vote for it. If they voted down, they voted down, but if they voted forward, they go forward. I mean,
So how bare bones is this, is the middle, is this the lowest one? How bare bones is that? Because you run, you're more familiar with all the numbers because you're playing with them all the time.
Yeah.
How bare bones, I mean, I'm sensitive to what Brent said too. I don't want to get almost there.
Right, and not be able to do it.
Well, and here's a scenario too. We've been operating on 1 mill since 1998. There is a point when you have to repair the roof on your house after 40 years,
And
30
I think
years,
we need to make that very visible for the
Yes.
people that
you know?
we've been doing a lot with nothing for a long time.
And so that's what makes me sensitive to what Brent says. I don't want to do it part way. If we're going to ask, we're going to ask, and we're going to get it done and get the money we need to do whatever we said we're going to do, because we can't.
Right.
I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I want to do the other way.
We have to educate too.
I mean, ultimately, we're not the ones spending the money or deciding to pull the trigger, the voters do.
Right,
So,
yes.
we want to see the plan, be good, but we have the money to do it, but
Right.
it's their decision.
right.
And as was discussed last month, reality is that any of these scenarios does not fully address the entirety of the lake.
Right.
Correct.
This, if we earmark 800,000 of any potential ask for recreation and the rest go to dredging, you're looking at, 1.1 to dredging, 1.3, and then about 1.5 million for dredging. The prioritization of the project so far through the liaison committee and the restoration plan we put together last fall Starts with the bays because those are the simple, easiest to get out the gate and do, and then focus on the river before moving to the southeast corner of the lake to stop the issue from coming in before you move downstream instead of working backwards and coming out.
Stop the,
Stop it from
stop
coming
the
in.
infection.
Yeah.
Or mitigated it. So. But I asked you a question about which is how much bare bones is it? Specifically.
Well, according
2.4.
according to the association, their estimate on the totality of all the dredging is just over 3 million, 3 to 4 is what George has shared.
Well, I don't believe that. I mean, we've been working on this for a year and they.
But they forgot to mention anything to their lawyer.
Yeah.
Too busy working on the estimate.
It's only been 11 months since that was suggested, but.
Okay. Well, we've done our due diligence,
Yeah.
so we know what it is.
We're ready to rock and roll.
And is this why I say this? I don't know. The gist is that we won't do dredging if we don't have a memorandum of understanding with the LIPOA.
That to me has always been a necessity for them. This is a community improvement bond. The money is coming to the village and being spent by the village. The project's being done jointly with the association because of the unique nature of our lake. They need to have a guaranteed seat at the table in the decision-making process when it comes to dredging. And that's what we've continually tried to convey to them. This is how we bridge that gap that you believe is there. We put in place a structure that says, here's how this will play out. Here's how we decide what to do. And it's not sunk in.
And to me, it's hard to believe that they can't see that, because a few years ago, we had a gate on the dam that wasn't working. So a solution came up. Let's put a new gate on there, on the outside. We paid half, they paid half, we put it on, it worked.
No,
We pay 2/3.
We paid
Okay.
Right.
All right, but we worked together and it was done. There wasn't any worry about commingling of the money. There wasn't any worry because we had legal opinions on it. There wasn't any worry that the lake was now going to be a public lake because of that gate. And hallelujah, it's worked. The gate is working, it's safe, but the other one sits there and still bangs away up in the top, but that gate is working. So I mean, it's an example that it has worked.
as far as working together on a
Together.
project.
Why they can't see that, and let's do it again, folks.
Is this where I discuss their concern? I
Well,
can do it?
Well,
Yes. What?
let's,
Want to finish this?
well, I'd kind of like to get to the end of this,
All right.
like, where are we at? So a straw poll thinks, I see two people that say they kind of like the lower number, Bob and Al. And then you and Brent said maybe the middle. Paul will go along with whatever we do as long as people vote on it, which
And they're gonna vote on it, so.
I never thought I'd say. Paul will go along with whatever we do.
That's the first time those words have ever been said, right?
What day is this? I got to mark this down.
Can we have that in the minutes, please?
Put it in the minutes.
So
As long as
Charlie,
they
which
vote on
way
it,
are you leaning?
That's totally what I'm.
Well, to me, there's not a whole lot of difference between the upper two.
Yeah.
In dollars and cents. I don't want to kill a horse or a camel by popping too much weight on top. So I mean, I can go with the middle one or the upper one. That doesn't help you on your decision.
No.
But again, I want to see it pass. And if our people would look in here and say, okay, we went with the middle one instead of the Cadillac or the economy, I mean, that's going to get out. So,
Well, that's why I wanted to know. I mean, I don't want to go by the skin of our teeth. And
I just
like
think
Brent
it's
said,
in
barely
yeah,
get
I don't
done.
want to get it done, not done.
Keep an eye on it.
So for us, including inflation, because we'll be hit with inflation costs on this. If this passes, our dollar is going to be worth less. So
And actually.
actually, looking at the middle one is probably just like passing the
Lower one.
lower one, because it's gonna eat away. It's gotta gonna eat away.
Yeah, I actually think that,
That is,
that actually I think is one of the more sellable points on our end, because when it came to the management of the bays in particular, the intention was to acquire equipment so that it could be done jointly in-house. Which if you're gonna buy the equipment now,
It's just a one-time
it's
cost.
a one-time cost. You're not gonna pay the inflationary cost in 3 or 4 years when that cost goes up. So you'll have that tangible asset right now and not worry about the market increasing the cost of a dyno dredge or a, you know, a loader or whatever.
Well, folks, we gotta make a decision.
I'll make a motion that we go for the higher one.
oh my lord, really?
Yes, because it's gonna be up to the voters. I don't care. If the voters are for it, I'm for it. That's my bottom line. So if we're gonna play around with a middle to high, why not just go with it? I'm just hoping that they agree that way. And it's, you guys are looking at the thing and saying, well, it could be bare bones.
Well, we have to, yeah,
It's $200,000 over 10 years. You know,
Yes.
You and I, we don't have a problem paying.
no,
You know, so I mean, it's kind of, I mean, do I like it? No, you don't like paying anything, but it's, we're saying, you want this or don't you? You want dredging or don't you? You want parks or don't you? Okay, that's the bottom line. And if you think that we do it and then we sell ourselves short, I'm saying go for it all. Well, the people approve it, but then if they don't approve it, then we second guess and say, well, should we have done it cheaper? I don't think it's gonna be that much difference. I think people are either gonna say yes or no.
well, yeah, it's up to us to make the case. You can't keep running on one mill.
Right. Well, the problem is, we are still running on one mill operating. This is for a dedicated thing.
Right.
So to me, that doesn't buy us anything because we're not putting any money into the operating. We're still one mill operating. This is for special projects, and if the people want them done, you gotta pay for it. And if you think,
No, but what I'm saying is, for years, they've gotten by with only paying
Yeah.
$100.
right, but we're gonna continue to operate as an operational thing on one mill.
Yeah.
We're not bringing that up a half a mill or anything like that. We're staying
Correct.
with the one mill.
We operate on 0.8 million.
Yeah.
Heavily rolls us back.
Right, right.
We're a good 20K short of a full mill and what we collect property taxes, which is about 72,000 last year.
Motion's on the table.
What do you second
Me, I don't know.
it? Or do you want to
I'm- no,
go
I'm
to a
still
different
thinking
one?
about it. I'm still trying to-
I made a motion to go to the higher one. So
Yeah.
you make some motions that, no, we don't want to do that.
No,
Then we
no.
go to the second one.
If there's no second, then the motion dies.
Right.
Second.
You know, I'm just trying to get it moving.
I appreciate that, I really do.
Well, I think during our discussion, everybody pretty much agreed on the middle one, just so that we could tell people, that, okay, well, we took the middle. If the higher one dies, I think the middle one's our next best choice, and everybody agreed on the middle one. So if that motion dies, I would make the motion to do the middle.
Well, you said the smallest first.
At first.
At first,
but-
okay.
but
No,
now
I'm just clarifying.
Like I say, as we discussed it, and
You changed it.
everybody's agreeing that, high, low and everything else, and everybody agreed. Yeah, and put the inflation in, everybody agreed that they go for the middle. So
Okay.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
If this one dies, I'll make the motion to accept the middle.
I didn't hear any seconds. so
Well,
it-
yeah, is there a second for Paul's motion? I'm saying. Is there a second for Paul's motion? Seeing none, your motion fails for lack of a second. Is there any further discussion of before anyone else wants to make a motion about this? Is there a motion pending?
Now I'll make the motion.
Yes.
So now I'll make the motion to accept the middle millage here.
Motion made by Davis to accept the 2.7174 millage levy to be put on the ballot. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Peavy. Is there any further discussion?
I guess one way you can look at it too, is if we take that 2.7 and we think about what the people are gonna see, the whole thing. And we look at a 0.3 for police protection. We're looking at 3 mils. That's probably an easier number for some to digest than 3.3,
Yeah, that's interesting.
maybe.
Good point.
I mean, the ones that
Oh,
are saying,
we just trying to make sausage here. We gotta, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is
I
there
like
any,
bratwurst.
is there any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
All right, guys. Al Davis,
Yes.
Charlie Keel,
Yes.
Robert Laraway,
Yes.
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Paul Cuny,
Yes.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes.
You
Motion
guys are
carries
Being mean
7-0.
to me.
Okay,
Okay.
now we can go.
Our last item on this topic is a memorandum of understanding.
Okay, now you can talk about that, Carol,
Oh,
because you
now-
were at the liaison committee.
I was. Are you ready for me to say things?
Ben's ready.
Yeah. You
Ben's
are
ready.
ready.
Ben's ready.
Okay, so I have several concerns. One is that we've been talking about this for a year. And yet they've not yet gotten the second opinion. Gotten opinion from their attorney, although we've talked about it for a year. That's number one. Number two, the concern they have expressed is using village funds would make the lake, potentially make the lake public if we did this. My question about that is, we currently pay for lake patrols for the lake for during the summer. And why has that not been an issue in the past? Why do we not then turn the lake public because of that? That's one. Number two, are you still issuing tickets in the parks?
I have not for a while.
But you're still, I still have
I
a
have.
letter right here that says y'all can do it.
Yep.
And I want to know why that's okay.
What about Charlie's thing? That's the
And,
biggest one.
Mhm.
and the gate.
Right, the gate's the most
Yeah.
important thing.
So it
Yeah,
feels to me like more of a fear to make a decision than it feels to, I don't know, how are they going to respond to the members, which is all of us, when we have offered this and they choose not to act on it? Although other things they wanted are okay. I don't get it. I just don't get the point of view. I want to know, can we move forward without them dredging?
No.
No, that's my theory too. I don't think we can. So what happens if we don't have a response from them by the time we need to finish our ballot?
Or if their attorney advises them not to.
Right. Oh, yeah, good point. Yes. Yeah.
For my advice,
Boy, we
I
have
would
a
like
hell
a
of
lot of
money
advice.
for the parks.
What's that?
We have a hell of a lot of money for the parks.
Yeah.
to answer both of your questions, it would be incredibly messy to try and do dredging without them.
Right.
It would open Pandora's box on several legal issues regarding the ownership of the lake bottom. And frankly, I don't know if that's worth blowing up
Yeah, I don't
for
think
that
so either.
purpose. Second, if their attorney comes back and says that they absolutely cannot be involved in this project for whatever reason she comes up with, that's a major problem for them, because they realized in 2011 that they don't have the financial capability to fund a project like this because they have no way to compel participation through taxation. So our legal opinions that they've had since 2011 on this specific topic deals with special assessments that we could do, such as dredging or weed treatment, for the benefit of the lake. This is no different, even though it's a bond. We have a clear public purpose. You know, the waters is a publicly held resource by the state of Michigan. The benefits of what we would be doing would benefit the water. It would benefit the water quality, it benefit fisheries, it benefit boating, it benefit recreation.
The tribe's in on
The tribes
it.
in on it,
Everybody's giving
and
it.
our fisheries on board with us.
Everybody's on board.
Whose property values?
See, and I think that's an important piece, that we've done all the work
Yeah.
with all the major groups that are involved, and everyone is supporting it but one.
This seems more like an emotional issue to them rather than a logical one. They're not stupid people.
Well, I mean,
It just, I don't understand.
you know, the history of this started a year ago, maybe even in April of last year. Jeff Gray started railing on this in public comment. You know, you guys need to, you know, move along in this project. This is serious. The lake needs it. The association doesn't appear to be interested. You know, can you approach them to do a project like this? So we did. It came up at the June 1st liaison committee meeting last year. It was talked about conceptually. Told them, you know, talk to your attorney. We talked about, you know, memorandum of understanding or agreement so that, you know, they knew that their seat at the table was secure. Came back up in August at liaison. We talked more in detail about what it would look like to get a project approved through the state, realizing that there were going to be permitting hurdles to navigate with Eagle. So we arranged, we had a meeting in October where I drafted a lake restoration plan, sent it to everyone on the liaison committee. They thought it was a good plan. We met with Eagle representatives early November.
And they were included.
They were included in that meeting. We went down to Lansing. It was George King, Larry Russell, myself, and Brett Peavy. Those were our representatives from our community. We sat at that table with the senior executives from Eagle and our state senator, and, you know, made a good case. And our state senators squarely on board with this project. Our state rep is squarely on board with this project. We understand that there is, you know, one issue on Eagle's end for the southeast corner. But that's phase 3 of the project. It's not something we have to navigate today. We had that meeting.
And we pointed out that if we take care of and make a silt trap with phase 1, that eliminates how much money they have to spend on toxins every year.
Yes, that's true.
Eagle recommended that we contact and consult with the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe. We are not on the reservation, but our waters are 1 mile upstream of tribal waters and DNR fisheries. We set up a meeting with the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe. We held it here in this building. They thought it was a great plan. They're like, here, we'll help you, you know, frame these type of things and ideas when you go to your permit. They're 100% on board with this. We went to DNR fisheries. They said, yeah, we absolutely see what you're doing is going to benefit fisheries. We, you know, here are some things you should consider, but we don't have an objection to doing this project. So we've jumped through all of these hurdles since last year. We're in the red zone,
Yeah, we got a score.
you know.
Well, and timing is an issue. We don't have a choice. We can't wait long.
Yeah, we are under a obligation requirement under Michigan election law where we have to finalize ballot language, certify it to the county clerk by the first Tuesday in August, I think. So for us to make that deadline, you know, whatever's going on the ballot, unless you want to hold a special meeting, gets dealt with at the next meeting. Unless you want to go into July. I mean,
So,
if you go in July, we have 2
what I'm
months.
hearing you say, since you went to liaison.
I was there.
You were there.
Brett was there. Mhm, and Paul, right?
So, I mean,
No.
you're asking me the same questions I'd be asking you, and you were there.
Is that
I don't know,
confusing?
yes, because I don't know what to do, what
Yes.
to do about it.
Yeah. I did ask if they were still interested in even doing this.
And they said,
Well, they'd have to talk to their attorney. So
And I'm not knocking their attorney, but their attorney does not have a background in this area at all.
Right, I know that.
And so if she comes with an opinion, I'm 99%, 99.9% sure she's gonna say no, just to protect her butt. Okay, because she doesn't know the background and she doesn't have that expertise. Okay, so for a quick answer in 2 to 3 weeks, in her eyes, that's a quick answer, not, she didn't have a year to do it. Because obviously they didn't talk to her when they should have.
She could still
Okay.
charge the association $2,000 and call our lawyers and find out.
I have suggested that verbally and in writing to them that the most expedient resolution to this would be to have Mary Ann O'Neill in contact with Bloom with the question she has, so she can start from at least the 50-yard line as opposed to the 20-yard line.
And that was part of the conversation at the liaison as well. Yes.
And they said,
Got no response.
No.
They had no
they said-
response. And then since then, I'm hearing it secondhand is that they will not meet our June 1st because it's gonna take her 3 to 4 weeks to make a decision. So 3 to 4 weeks, that puts us in the after June 1st.
True, we have a meeting set June 1st.
so basically, here's the way I see this. This may be a little bit blunt. But we have to drag them kicking and screaming to this process, or we just tell everybody why it's not going forward.
Which is still sad because
Yeah,
that
because
doesn't
it
fix
doesn't
the
get what we
lake.
want done.
Well,
Yeah.
I understand
Getting
all
it to the
that.
voters to say yes or no.
Yeah,
It goes 10 years backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, here's my comment on the timeliness of this project. The timeline everybody had.
yes.
It was an easy to follow Gantt chart, you know, follow the dots. This is what happens in this sequential order in this time, so on and so forth. It was structured so that we could be doing constructive community engagement
yes.
June, July, August. So we have newsletter articles ready, we have FAQ ready, we have brochures ready, we have all that legwork on our part done and ready to go. Because this was a timeline that we thought everybody was on board with.
And it was presented to them early on. I mean, it's not just, and they didn't disagree. Yeah, and they didn't disagree.
Plus the PR firm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep,
True.
Sable
Plus, I
PR.
mean, they went to these important meetings.
Yeah.
I can't understand why they even go to them if they weren't interested. That's what blows my mind. If you take the time and you go there and you meet with these people and you get these answers, and then still for them to now say, we don't know what we're gonna do, we gotta talk to the attorneys. I mean,
And their primary issue is the money. In terms of, will it make
Does
the
this
lake
come
cover?
from just the entire
no,
LIPOA board?
No,
3 members.
All they need is a majority.
Well, it's gotta be on the agenda. Vote.
Well, what I'm saying is, I'm wondering if they're a little bit in the dark.
Oh, I
Are
think
they
so.
mushrooms?
I think so. But when's their next meeting?
After June.
After June
Yeah,
1st.
yeah, they just had.
So.
Well, the focus of this community is what? The lake,
Well,
right?
we're gonna lose that
it's
asset.
literally the first word in our name.
Oh, yeah, good point. Good point. Okay. Yeah,
It's not a big deal. I
No.
think, you know, until we get bad news, I mean, we gotta keep going on like it's
Oh,
gonna
that's a
happen.
Well, that's why we're.
You know, because if their attorney comes back and surprises us, whatever, like the point of the liaison was to have a good relationship with them. And, you know, I will be frustrated and I was disappointed that, you know, their feet were a little cold. But I guess my biggest question is, if dredging the lake is dead, is the whole thing dead? Are we gonna just try for the trail? Or,
good
you know,
question.
is there, are we gonna come up with a contingency plan now? Or are we gonna kick that can down the road maybe until the following year? If, you know,
I
if this
thought we
doesn't
were
work,
I thought we were talking about if we didn't do dredging, which we definitely want to, we'd probably go to roads. But, you know, that needs to be further discussed, and I hate to discuss that until we have an absolute no on the other.
Yeah, good
But-
point.
But here's the reality of our situation. I need to begin building that contingency plan, so you have viable information to act on in the next 2 months.
Right.
So regardless of where they're at, I need to start working on that. So you know that alternative is gonna be there in July if it has to be there. So.
So do we have a date by which we're going to say we have to decide? And we will either include dredging or we will do roads? I mean, what's our
It's
date?
gotta be in by August 1st.
So we gotta have it way before that to start educating the people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what George basically said, you don't have to have the language till then.
Yeah.
But,
That's true. I mean, we don't have to have the final ballot language.
Right.
Until then, but we need to know the scope. We need to
That's
know.
what you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I, yeah.
I mean, we look like a bunch of idiots if we go down the road for dredging and they
Yeah.
pull us out.
Yeah.
And we say, well, now we're gonna change it to
We
roads.
can't,
Right.
we can't, if
Do
we,
that.
we go for that.
That's just,
Yeah.
we're
No, you
asking
gotta-
for a no.
Yeah, they're not interchangeable.
You gotta start over next year on a different deal.
You start over in 2 years unless you're gonna pay for a special election.
Oh, good point. That's even worse.
Yeah.
Ah,
and to be honest with you, I think our best bet is this election, because the next one with the presidential thing and that stuff, I
Oh,
don't think it's just, the attention is drawn away from what we want.
yeah, it's easier to do local in this one. Yeah, you're right.
Well, and this, if we're gonna do anything with the recreation, this 50-50, the old thing with the DNR is only there now.
Right.
It's not another thing, potentially.
You know, that program is funded through oil and gas leases from the state of Michigan.
Mhm.
So.
So. That's what we're all
I
saying.
guess we're just plowing ahead.
Yeah.
And I hate to put this on Tim. I know, but
Yeah,
uh,
geez, that's,
Lord,
we've
the
done so
contingency
much
plan.
work.
But I guess we have to have some sort of contingency. I at least think about it. I don't know what else. We can always have a special meeting prior to June 1st if we want to. Well, no, I guess we can't. That's
No,
next
after.
week.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't come back, well, they're gonna probably come back with something because doing nothing is something.
There was
Well, at least
nothing
we know.
negative until
Yeah.
this meeting, though. This liaison is the first time that it came up that they were real cold feet.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
Yeah, really.
Pretty
I mean,
much.
it's just like they
That's
just
accurate.
flipped
Yes.
on you.
Yeah.
Part of the conversation too was,
Because I thought they were excited last time.
well, we
Well,
thought.
not
they-
excited,
yeah,
but amenable.
Yeah,
supportive.
Why would we go to Lansing if we weren't?
right.
Yeah.
You know, why,
And that's a
why
big
we hire
deal.
a PR firm? Why do we have meeting
Yeah.
after meeting after meeting
Well, because we pay for the PR fund, they do.
Yes.
Yes. We pay for all the materials, we pay for the
Yeah.
bonding, we pay for the legal opinions. I mean, we have certainly
They've just been.
done
patting on
far
the back of
more
the
at
dog.
this point in time.
Man,
But
I'm
that's
having
fine.
hard time
Yeah.
not being petty.
Well, and their concern, yes, and their concern was this, it's that they wanted to know how we were gonna hand the money over to them. Because they
Yeah.
didn't understand how a millage is handled. And that we weren't handing them any money, that, well, then what if we order something and you don't pay for it? You're not gonna order either. The millage is through the village.
So it's just lack of education.
Yes, I think they didn't understand.
They'd only been told it twice. in fairness.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
it's willful ignorance then. Yeah, it's a tough.
And the
tough
question
situation.
was, would we cheat them? Would we lie? Would we steal? I mean, all that kind of thing. And I mean, really, that's what we were accused of. And
Just
it
like we did
was,
with the gate.
yeah, and it's that we can't do that. If we take to the voters this millage and it's passed,
Not
this
really
is
our
the
money.
budget.
Yeah, this isn't our money
No,
anymore.
it's, yeah, and that's how it has to be spent. It's not like we're gonna lie and cheat and steal.
Okay,
So it's just so frustrating to me.
what were we gonna say, Tim?
Yeah,
You know, and for us, I think the really the drop dead date for the dredging is, you know, end of June.
okay.
You know,
We
that-
need a date.
you need a date.
Yes.
It's certainly not preferred that we wait that long. But we can't get into July. And that's the bottom line. We cannot get into July.
We'll never get
And not have an answer.
not get the education program.
Correct. Right.
Right.
We were set up to start doing focus group, coffee hours, legitimate outreach.
Yeah.
The
If
thought,
we go that way,
What
we're
if
gonna
we-
still lose a whole week of July with the 4th.
Yeah, good point.
yeah, but
That could be the perfect coffee time.
yeah,
What if we did
Or
this?
something.
If we went back and said, okay, it doesn't look like June 1st, we're gonna meet, because you're not gonna have anything for us, because you're. What is the date we can meet? So we can come back to our board if they have to have a special meeting or whatever. When are you gonna get your answer from your attorney? Whatever it be, you give us a date that she's gonna give you a date. And then us meet the next day, and then we'll call you guys. I mean,
It's almost
Jim
like
could
the-
say a special
it's
meeting.
almost like the Cheshire Cat, they'll go this way.
Yeah.
You know, this is-
But we gotta set something to make a decision.
We gotta get on the offense.
so
Yeah.
a suggestion I would throw out, and you don't have to tell me tonight if it's a great idea or not, but instead of June 1st being an unproductive liaison meeting, 'cause
Right.
Right,
they're not gonna have their ducks in a row.
right.
Invite them either in the morning or the evening for just a social Q&A with yours truly, liaison committee members, whoever, invite their entire board.
Why don't we invite their board with our board and just have
Yeah.
just a general
Yeah.
Work session.
work session? Yes.
Good
It'll have to be
idea.
public.
Good
Yeah.
idea.
Yes,
It'll be
it'd be-
public.
it'd
Yeah,
definitely
but that's
be
all right.
public.
Yep.
I'd like it to be public. I'd like
Yes,
a lot of people to
yes.
show up.
Yes.
Yes.
Because your comment earlier about is it their whole board, I wholly think it's a smaller faction on their board. I think the bulk of their board, at least 5 are very supportive. 5 of the 9,
Based on what they know.
based on what they know, based on conversations I've had.
That to me is a great.
Yep.
Both boards.
Both boards.
Open it up.
Set it up.
That's a good idea.
I guess that's what we're gonna have to do.
We just want to be friends,
What do you think, Brett? You're on liaison.
right?
Discouraged,
Yeah.
confused.
Confused.
But until they come out and say no,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a good
they're
point.
still our, business partner on this deal, so. I don't want to be mad at them until the time comes.
Yeah.
When
That's
they
good.
say
I like
no,
that.
I will be upset. But
Mhm.
Yeah, we have to go into that meeting friendly, but.
Yep.
Yeah.
But,
With hopes.
Be
Our
aggressive,
hope is
but-
it will work
but
out.
friendly,
That's our
yes.
hope.
yes.
And meanwhile, work on a contingency plan.
Yeah, sorry about that, but.
Last politician that said trust and verify.
All
I
right.
mean, we have so much work into it, already,
Yes.
that if we have to have a special meeting or something, it's still,
It's okay.
to keep it alive.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
still- It's still worth it, in my
Yeah.
opinion, so.
Yeah.
And my other concern is, because you went to the meeting at the state level, is if this doesn't work, whenever we choose to go back, they will question us differently because it's, well, you couldn't get it together last time. What's different about this time?
Mhm.
And that makes all of us look a little less, with a little less integrity.
It's true. I mean, there's also a thing too with, in 2 years, depending on who's still on council, who's gonna wanna be on the liaison next time, know what happened this time. Are you gonna put a bunch of work into it, knowing what happened?
Yeah.
Like, just, no,
You're gonna
that's a
have trouble
dead end road.
filling
I've already
it.
been down that. No, thanks. It won't be me on the.
Yeah.
I promise you that. Liaison.
Okay. Thank you, Tim,
Yes.
belatedly. Okay.
Before we leave it, how do we approach this community
Right
group
now,
and work session? Do we come out and say, we want to have a work session?
Mhm.
And put it out? It's not a question.
Yeah.
to them.
Well,
Do you want to take part? You're invited to a work session between us. Because if we put it out that, well, would you like to do it?
Right.
You know what they're gonna say? No.
And we don't do it that way. We say, we'd like to invite you guys to sit down with our board
Right.
and have a candid discussion, anything you want to question about the project, you know.
Yep.
Ask us and.
And
And we
especially
can open it to the public.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
especially
means
get-
that'd be on the public.
those people that are on liaison to come to it, because they may not know what's going on.
If we do in the evening, we will have food.
Ah, yes.
People like better when they're fed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
No, I
can't
think
wait too
that's our
long.
whole selling point is,
Yeah.
we don't understand what's going on, so we'd like to help and maybe, you know,
Help you
Yes.
understand.
both of us,
Yep.
we can start understanding your problems and you understand ours. Let's do it as a friendly thing.
Yeah.
We want to just get together to help this
Liaison.
project to move.
Good idea.
I would suggest a little bit of budget transfer, please.
Okay, here we are.
A tiny budget. Sorry.
Don't bird walk now.
I'm sorry. Okay, sorry.
Resolution 2203, council rules and procedures.
Yeah, rules.
Sometimes.
Mr. Chair, back on the agenda tonight, was from last month, the council wanted to wait until the Article 2 ordinance was adopted because some of those changes impact this and the next agenda item. But your adopted rules and procedures that I believe you requested in February, is that about right?
Yep.
Been worked on, wordsmith, 3 different variations, particularly in one section. But it's back for your consideration and action if you so wish tonight.
Well, I commend everybody that worked on it, because watching it from Florida, it's been a tongue biting situation, and I'm glad we got it to this point, so
It's a lot of work.
I
Yeah, it's impressive.
commend you, and I'm in favor of what I've read.
Any other comments about it, discussion about it? Any changes, additions, corrections, whatevers? This has been about a 3-month deal, isn't it, Tim? Longer than that, but I mean.
I have to say, agree with Charlie watching it and my concerns and stuff like that. I guess if it's as it's worded right now, I'm for it,
Okay.
as it is now.
Any other discussion about it?
Got it.
No, everything we've done over the last couple of months is in here and
Yeah,
it looks good. I mean,
Okay,
these two would be the only one that, you know, didn't get to voice concerns about, you know, certain things.
I voiced my concerns with Tim.
Yeah.
We were going along, so.
Yeah.
all right. So Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move. I think I should do that.
Motion made by Shannon to approve the village council rules and procedures. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by
Wow.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Charlie Keel,
Yes.
Robert Laraway,
Yes.
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Paul Keating,
Yes.
Al Davis,
Yes.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes, motion carries unanimous.
We're just a peaceful group tonight, aren't we?
Yeah, sounded like it a minute ago.
Well, we are again now.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, resolution 2204.
There's a typo on this. It should not be the ZBA left, should be the village council. So the village charter says that the ordinance, which is our ethics ordinance, which you amended earlier tonight in Article 2, shall provide for the reasonable public disclosure of finances by officials with major decision-making authority over monetary expenditures and contractual matters. So when we adopted the ethics ordinance years ago, we said, everybody's got to do this. Well, the charter really says it's this table tonight that needs to do this.
God, I was already to approve it as is. I like it. A ZBA.
And that corrections in there.
Sorry,
It will be if you adopt it.
Okay.
Approve is corrected.
Okay, approved, so we have to,
Approved as correct.
yeah. So is there a further discussion? Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Davis to approve resolution 2204 as corrected. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by PB. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Robert Laraway,
Yep.
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Bill Shannon. Yes. Paul Cuny,
Yes.
Al Davis,
Yes.
Charlie Q,
Yes.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes, motion carries. Unanimous. Agenda item 4. Requested drainage easements.
So at last month's meeting, it was added to the agenda about the village potentially creating and selling a drainage easement at our DPW property to Mr. Davis, who owns the property immediately to the north of part of our DPW property. Since this involved a potential interaction, real estate deal between a council member and the village, the council asked for me to confer with our attorney on his feedback regarding this potential idea. You've got 1, 2, 3, 7 points that he wanted me to share in the agenda. I can go over those if you'd like, or
Seem pretty self-explanatory.
I'm worried with it.
shut up.
Well, you sent them to all of us.
He doesn't believe we do our work.
So what is the council's pleasure on this? What do we want to do?
Well, the question is, it says we have to have a public purpose, correct?
Correct.
Do we have that?
Actually, we do. Or can I explain? My view, what it is you can see the easement there in the blue line, you know, coming from the corner of my property or towards that drainage ditch. Quite often what happens is, see the pond directly to the left, where just above easement there. When we get a lot of rain, what they do is they put a gas pump in there and they pump the water to the ditch on the west side of the road. They're underneath the road or alongside your driveway. Actually, it's the yellow line there. There's a tube that comes across there, and that floods, and it floods your property, my property, and the adjacent property to the north of me. And with the lawyer mentioning for me to run a drainage all the way along my property to the ditch, it doesn't make common sense to go all the way around in a circle, because, you know, I'm adding more water at the worst time ever, you know. You see, and that was my point of asking for this, you know, easement across here. You can see, what did we say that was, 100 and?
About 100 and, I want to say 80.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But then to go almost 500 feet down my property, across you guys' vacant lot, and then come back into the drainage ditch, you know, you're talking, 5, 6 to, you're talking, 800 feet or so. Plus, not only that, what it also is underneath your driveway going back into the salt storage there. You know, there's a tube there, which is also a restriction. I wanted to bypass that restriction with the water coming from the north, not only off of my property, but off the neighbors. You know, I do have a drainage ditch on the north side of my property, but it doesn't take it all. You know, so that's where the public part comes in, it doesn't, it affects the golf course, it affects you, both of your lots, it affects my lot, and it affects, you know, the bar restaurant. You know. So, you know, and that was my concern right there is helping drain during the worst times. You know, during the rest of the time, you know, it's not bad. You guys don't have an issue and I don't have an issue with it. At the worst times, that's when it does become a problem.
You know, the,
So,
So how far is it if you just went to Coldwater Road?
it's 500 feet, approximately 500 feet. I think my lot's what, 665.
yeah, give or take.
You know, so it's
5
about,
acres.
it's about 500 feet. To go from that point,
From that blue line towards Coldwater. is 500 feet.
right, and then it's gotta go down the ditch and then back, you know, down across your property and then back that drainage ditch to get to that. That's what I'm saying. You're talking 180, 200 feet of this easement or this culvert that I was gonna put in there versus almost 1,000 to go all the way around.
Myself, I can understand exactly what you're saying, but after reading what our attorneys have said, I'm trying to wrap my head around public improvement. And see how it's improved for a couple people or a couple lots. But public, I'm looking at the village, how do I get it? Or anybody over forest too?
Well, I'm not,
Or all, I see a small,
Right.
a handful of people,
right,
but I don't see a public. And again,
Right.
I can understand what you said at the last meeting.
Yeah.
And after reading the attorney's input, I just had to change my mind, because I just don't see a public.
sure. Well, alls I was pointing out right here is, you know, you got the golf course, you got you guys, both lots here, mine, the neighbors, and then you got all of these. How many lots are across Coldwater Lake, straight across from us,
On that side, there's, I think, a dozen, 10 or
you
12.
know?
They're all undeveloped.
It is, yeah, it is a small public use, but it is. a public
You know,
use.
The thought that from hearing the scenario tonight, our ditch handles all that water anyway. I mean, the water from the golf course is coming under Coldwater Road and going through that ditch. You know, it's an issue of who's draining who first, but it's the same amount of water regardless of the scenario, because it's all going through that yellow ditch out.
Comes to it at the end, or if it goes up, it comes down.
Yeah, so I mean, the golf course, they bought a lot on Coldwater years ago, dug a ditch, you know, not on the lot they bought, but you know, whatever, different story there. So that does drain into the west ditch on Coldwater. That culvert under the road not only handles that side north of Birdie, but it handles everything south of Birdie. In the 2017 flood, that section of Birdie Drive was under about 4 inches of water because our 18-inch culvert under Birdie couldn't handle it, and it just went over top, came down, went through the ditch, and then came out that way, went through our ditch. You know, and that's a 36-inch culvert under Coldwater Road. I mean, it has the capacity to handle that, but this goes back to the larger issue that we've talked about for a few years, and that's stormwater management in that part of the village. You know, the soils get noticeably worse south of baseline. They're far more clay, they're heavier, doesn't drain as well.
When's the last time that culvert's been cleaned? That's a
It's
county.
owned by the road commission.
Right, right. No, I mean, I'm just like,
The 17, it got flushed.
you gotta flush. Well, yeah.
So it should be cleaner.
Except for all the big rocks that went in there.
Yeah.
You know, you have the debris that's still in. And that's what me, you know, I have about 6 inches, you know, if you can see, you know, my buildings there and then see the trailers parked in there. I had over 6 inches of water coming Cape when I heard it crossed. And it went to that ditch, exactly where
I can't,
the blue line is.
I have to agree with Bob on this, after reading the, I don't know if we want to get into this particular situation. Village goods got to be one of those things that you consider, but it also has to be the ramifications of indemnifying us from any damage down, because we've already been 5 years ago or 6 years ago warned or threatened about, you know. They wouldn't even let Shannon Dexter, who purchased that property that we got back, in the pool, because the drain commission said they wouldn't take it if she had that emergency empty. She was gonna do a therapy pool at 36,000. Yeah. And they said, no, can't do it. They wouldn't give her a permit.
There's birdie in 17.
Yeah.
But granted, it's 7 inches of rain in a 4-hour period. Hope we don't see that again, but
Yeah.
that was our pond. Became a much larger pond. There's the pond in question from the golf course. It went almost all the way up to birdie. Baseline. That school road was completely flooded over.
How many days was that flooded?
That part was probably 2 days, but what, you know, it was a evolving situation in that as water would funnel through the drainage system, what was dry on Friday could be wet on Saturday because the
Gotcha.
water reached them. So like, River Road, that was totally fine. I think it was a Thursday the storm happened. Saturday, all of a sudden, Squaw Creek is running over its banks because all the farmland to the south finally caught it, you know?
Yeah.
I understand your concern. My concern is that if we're going for a millage in November, the perception of the perception of a council member getting something, people might not understand. That's the issue for me.
Anybody else?
I guess I wish you'd have thought of this idea after the high water things that we had at that time.
Yeah.
This is a possible solution to it. And timing is just not a good timing, I don't think, either at this point. Don't let it rain tomorrow, please.
Yeah.
Up to 7%.
Like I say, the pay our attorney for a reason, and after reading their input, that's what changed my mind.
Can you do something without an easement?
Last month, I was totally in agreement with, it. After reading the
Like
attorney.
it just has a backhoe practice? Like a training exercise, dig a little ditch.
Let me ask you, well, I guess that wouldn't change the ethics part of it if that blue line run in the back of my property and went straight to baseline. That help, you see any benefit of that then? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Going up the east side of my property.
Mhm.
And then that goes all the way up to the ditch. The,
Go through the storage area.
well, yeah, right behind all the storage areas, you know. And to where it would go up to baseline. You guys see what I'm saying? You know where baseline is, it's up here in the letter. And then, you know, that would benefit. If it,
That's not all
what
your
am-
property though, is it?
pardon?
That wouldn't be all your property.
No, I'd take it to mine, and then he could take it to the next guy could take it on up the rest of the way.
Yeah, it'd be- You'd have to do it with them.
Yeah. I'm not sure who owns that right now.
Last I know is Brad Sims, Brad and Amanda.
Yeah, I'm assuming that, but I don't know.
You know, in this area here is where the Lake Davis appears, heavy rains.
You know, I was just wondering if that.
It would-
Pooling out of baseline, you know, right through there.
I would say that would help because that water then,
Oh, it goes straight.
it would
down.
go east.
Yeah,
So the high point on baseline is just past the driveway to Mr. Peavy's property, right about here.
yeah,
So in a perfect world, I would say that we would think about reditching so that all this water goes to the east. That will free up drainage coming this way, because right now, everything from
I think that's uphill. That's a pretty deep ditch.
right here's the high point. This is all low. We actually re-ditched this several years, so this will flow. It's a matter of getting it to there. So right here, all this water is coming this way, all this water is coming this way, this water is coming this way, this water is coming that way, that water is coming that way. Whatever we can get to go on baseline is gonna make this situation better. And
And so that assists a number of businesses.
yeah, that would improve the entire area.
3, 4.
Plus
Yeah.
the dog grooming, because they don't have to drive through mud.
Yeah.
Or dog.
You know, and there isn't much of a ditch over here on this side of the street. There's, you know, a little bit here, but there's not much, there's no ditch here.
But then that'd be getting a private easement, not through us,
Correct.
through other property owners. And that you'd have to do on your own. We couldn't do anything.
No,
like
exactly.
that.
If him and the Sims wanted to work something out and access that ditch,
But would we have any problem with the ditch itself, getting it into that ditch? And do we have to give approval for that?
I don't know.
Because I mean, that would be the best thing if we're out of it, but you deal with the landowners.
You wanna make it flow east.
Yeah,
Because the bank is kind of the plateau, if you will. So water sheets north and south from the bank. That's why this floods out here. And then this, it ponds at the bank and then it'll come this way. You know, what happened?
It is a solution that benefits a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot more if you go that way.
You know, what we saw this spring was something that I've never seen happen here. And so we, as you know, installed a culvert here.
Yeah.
There's water flowing in that one ditch, one cold water every day.
So, yeah, and so here's,
Does that come from the pond?
yeah, so there is a culvert on the plat that connects this pond to the lake right through here. This pond is connected with a tube
To fill that
there.
pond, yeah.
That pond is connected to a culvert that comes out right about here. So this water that you see here is coming from here.
It was part of that, yeah.
And what we saw this spring was this water came all the way down. There's a 24-inch or 36 culvert right there. I think it's 24. We put in an 18 here. Came in here, couldn't handle, there's a 24-inch tube that goes up to this pond. This couldn't handle it, so it backed up into here, then it backed up into here. So we were getting flooding here from the lake.
Well, I don't know. I don't see any approval on the council for this.
No, I don't see. it.
Would,
At this time.
Not the proposal that you had,
Correct.
What if,
but there are ways I think we can work on.
I went to Rowe and asked for a proposal to look at having them, you know, come up with a ditching plan for that area. And we're not gonna put in a storm sewer,
Right.
you know. But if we could do something with the ditching to alleviate some of these problems, that would encompass a larger area, and we certainly have a public purpose in doing that.
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
All right.
You gonna do that then?
I'll work on it.
Get it done with your free time by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't sleep
You don't
tonight.
have a meeting June 1st.
You've got lots of time. All right, Cal Brew International Ownership. Status update. Mr. Wolf.
This is Mr. Cooney.
My concern was, as I talked to Tim, I said, nothing's been addressed on this. Are we moving forward? Are we sitting still? I don't know if the committee at the airport has done anything, or is it dead, or because if it's dead, yes, I think we should be preparing the airport, shutting it down. When was it, 2025?
Well, we had a couple numbers that were in Florida all winter long, so that kind of slows things down, you know, the communication part of it. We had a meeting the other night, and we talked about, some of the guys were concerned. I don't think it's a big deal. One of their concerns was the verbiage, putting pilots in there. You know,
Yeah.
so, you know, they kind of wanted that struck out, which you would, when you do an LLC. You know, the other thing that they asked me to ask you guys, if you guys would be interested in combining the air park with the airport. That was their question.
We don't own Air Park though.
Yeah. I said,
It's in the village though, right?
You know, it's a subdivision.
yeah, the subdivision.
So, and that was a question that they were, I couldn't answer.
And we own, you know, we own some property on the airport, but that was included in the legal description that you were gonna get everything that we had, the runway, you know, the space on both sides, and then the kind of rectangular square piece that comes off Bonanza, which is another 5 acres, I wanna say, give or take.
I mean, that was one of the questions, and they do want to proceed with it. You know,
They do, okay.
but yeah, and that was what they requested me to mention to you guys tonight at the meeting is they are interested in it.
So is there any kind of a deadline?
I was
you're
gonna say,
looking
is there
at
a
doing
timeline?
it? You know,
I don't,
I mean,
is it, I mean,
No,
other than, you know, what they say, it's gotta, it doesn't matter who is in
Correct.
ownership,
Yep.
us or you, it has to stay open until
2025.
2025.
And see, that was the thought process on doing this now.
Yeah.
Is that I don't think anybody wants to see the airport close. It's a matter of who's going to be running it after 2025.
Right.
And if we could come to an agreement with the owners that, you know, around the airport, that use the airport, pilots, whatever you want to call the group, for them to take over now and then to be contracted by us to meet that grant obligation that it's a public facility through 2025, that should give them the operating capital to operate beyond 2025. So this is our way of hoping, you know, keeping the airport open longer is how we've approached it.
I guess one of the other that concerns is, you know, we went and last year, the air park committee, I shouldn't say, I'm not on the board, so they went and upped the dues to, what did they do?
Change it from 30 to 50.
From 30 to 50. And then, so we're, you know, right now that's going towards the maintenance. If it's privately owned, does that continue to go towards the maintenance?
So the Air Park Association is a separate entity that as I understand it from, you know, it's not owned by the village, you know, the village owns the airport. And the thought that we've had at this point was, it makes more sense for the users of the airport to form an LLC to take ownership of the airport as opposed to the plat. And the plat is not a recognized entity right now in terms of a taxable organization or an LLC in terms of the plat board. It's just in your building use restrictions. I would think that the owners in the air park plat that are not pilots or users of the airport may get some heartburn if they're asked to take the airport on and they just live there. Which is why, at least from my perspective, it made sense to do two separate entities here.
Well, and that was, I think that's what the question, it's my understanding is that's what the question was. Instead of pilots take over at the Air Park Association.
I mean, either way, you still have to,
Well, they were, right now, they had good feedback.
I mean, either way, a
We
legal
really
entity.
think that the air park people would be in favor of doing something like that?
Some of the guys have said the other guys that they've talked to were expressed.
I don't think they're talking to the people at that air park.
I don't know.
I mean, they came through and changed the date in the covenants quote that said when the dues are due. They changed it from $30 to $50. They can't tell me what the vote was for that. I never got a ballot to vote on that. I own 2 lots. I got a dunning letter that I hadn't paid mine by that time because it was due in April. But they can't give me even a budget for the last years showing that they need more money. Now, I know you can't mow it for nothing, but they don't have a budget. I can't believe the rest of the people out there that got hangers are gonna go for it.
I'm just going by what they, what they told me.
Yeah,
Right.
but I mean, that's something you could ask for. Have you seen a budget?
No, I hadn't asked for one,
But I mean, you're paying more money.
so sure. So I just know that it takes money to operate.
Yeah.
So.
Because I'm paying more money there than I would for dredging the lake.
Either way, a legal entity has to be created. Correct. To be on the receiving end.
Receiving it in a property.
Because the plat is not an incorporated.
So they just have to get ordered.
Like the LIPOA is an incorporated entity, that has, a tax status.
But the bottom line is we as a council are not going to say those groups go together or not. You have
They
to
gotta come up with.
Yeah.
go to them and say, we'd like you to join us. Are you interested?
And see,
We
that
can't
was-
do
that
anything
was
as a
the
village.
question, so
So
message that, I would probably bring it to the
Yeah.
board,
Okay.
So I'll go back and tell them that, that they need to proceed on
right.
one entity or the other.
And the
They
sooner
want to
the
join
better,
together
'cause
and
then
that's
you get
fine with
more money
us.
from the government.
Sure, yeah, sure, yeah. So,
Yeah, you
Help
need to
them
come
operate.
to them and have them bring up questions,
Tim can answer.
just not June 1st.
In his free time.
Yeah.
All right, new business.
So,
Lake patrol agreement.
item number 1 is supposed to be an agreement with Isabella. I got an email. So this morning, the person that handles the finances at the sheriff's department's been on vacation. The sheriff's been on road patrol because we're short staffed. So I emailed Mike this morning and said, hey, just want to touch base. Our council's meeting tonight. If the numbers aren't going to be ready for tonight, my recommendation would be to approve it not to exceed $4,000. Last year was 3,600. I mean, so it's comparable to that. He responded to me at 8:40. Tim, I'm good with that. The clerk filling in for Jen isn't up to speed on how things are doing. Jen will be back on the 24th.
So be not to exceed.
Not to exceed
4,000.
4,000.
And that's okay.
Is there any discussion about this? Chair will entertain a motion.
sure, I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Davis to accept the Lake proposal agreement not to exceed $4,000.
And I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Laraway. Any further discussion? Okay, let's go roll call, please.
Ron Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Paul Cuny,
Yes.
Al Davis,
Yes.
Robert Laraway,
Yes.
Charlie Keel,
Yes.
Dave Trollison.
Yes, pass, so unanimous. Okay, code enforcement vehicle purchase.
Yeah, we put $15,000 in the budget this year to purchase a vehicle for code enforcement, which we held off on because we haven't filled the position yet. We have one applicant, who is a quality person that I would happily hire. Problem is, he's also on our planning commission, he can't do both. So I need to sit down and ask him, which of the two do you prefer? Because the state of Michigan does not allow you to be an employee of the municipality and be on the municipality's planning commission, with the exception of like volunteer firefighters.
Okay.
Um,
So that's under,
So where we're at is something that we've talked about in the past. A purchase like this doesn't fall conveniently into the traditional bid it out type process based on especially the nature of the market right now for used vehicles. So the request I had was to pre-approve up to a certain amount that I could spend. If you tell me to go to X number of dealers, put the parameters in place there. But as I mentioned earlier, we do now need to replace a mower. The mower deck on that one continually is not working. And it would probably be far more efficient if we went to a zero turn type mower. He's mowing our office and he's mowing DPW with regular lawn tractor. Yeah, so that would free up time on his end. A lease is a good idea, I think.
The lawn tractor for sale.
The tractor itself works
I'm a
decently.
buyer for it. I know someone that's looking for it.
He can
Exact
ride
deal.
the lawn thing, as he's doing, going down the road.
Doesn't need the deck.
He doesn't need a deck.
okay,
Keep on
so let's see, why don't we explore a lease, but then give Tim a top line that he can't go over.
You know anything about like what the city of Mount Pleasant uses for their vehicles? They get some
They
discount.
use a
through-
Jeep.
No, they go through Ford, like the water department, streets.
Yeah.
They get these trucks from Ford.
Yeah, that's what we get.
There we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, the same kind of deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the program is called My Deal. That's extended purchasing through the state of Michigan. We pay a whole $180 a year to be a member of it. We buy our salt through My Deal. We bought both vehicles through My Deal. The 2010 with the plow, we paid $24,000 for with plow. The 2019 without the plow, we paid $26,000 for. Thicker price of like 46. My Deal does also have a pre-approved contract with John Deere for mowers. So I'm gonna reach out to Bader, or wherever they are now, Hudson or whoever on that. But also I do want to check at dogs. We do a lot of business with dogs. I prefer to stay local.
Sure.
About a zero turn, but that's something, I can't wait till next month to deal with.
So what do you want, Nate, instead of do that,
Well, are you,
because a zero return is about $7 grand, isn't it?
we can get about 4. That's what I thought.
Get two.
And I would like to borrow it.
You forget that people tend to like to do business with the government.
Yeah.
We are a good payer.
Oh,
I would look at, of the 15 we have set aside for this, 5 for the mower and 10 for a vehicle, but try and get a lease. If that's an option.
Yeah, let's do something, yeah.
Yeah.
We need the mower,
Yeah,
and it doesn't,
code enforcement's gonna write ourselves a notice if we don't.
yeah.
Let me just ask you a question. If you don't hire him, let's say he wants to stay on the planning commission, why, I don't know. Then you're back to square one. Are you gonna hold off from buying the vehicle until you get a person?
Kind
I
of,
hate to lease something and it just sit.
yeah, exactly.
No, yeah, I agree with you. Okay,
Why don't we say $15,000 total price for both and we'll leave the discretion to Tim on what he spends,
fine with me,
one way or the other, or a lease,
or a lease.
or a lease. And do we want to do a 1-year lease or a 2-year lease, or what do we want to do there?
Whatever the
You
best
know,
deal is.
I actually need to check to see if we can legally lease something,
Oh.
because it might have to be an Act 99 installment purchase.
Oh,
I'll ask Roger, our finance attorney tomorrow.
Okay,
why don't we give him the authority to go up to 15,000 for both, and he can look into a lease and go with it. So I'll make the motion.
motion made by CUNY
Yes.
to use the fifth code enforcement vehicle and mower not to exceed $15,000 total. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Seconded by Keel. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Yes, sir. Carol Shannon? Yes. Paul Cuny?
Yes.
Al Davis?
Yes.
Charlie Keel?
Yes.
Robert Laraway?
Yes.
Brent Peavy?
Yes.
Dave Torgerson?
Yes, pass 7-0. Okay. We'll close lots.
So the Isabella County Treasurer has sent us a letter that they are in the process of foreclosing on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots. The 2 of them actually have houses on them, which is a different thing than in the past.
Look your beauties too.
One actually is pretty decent. One is one that we have multiple tickets to the owner for blight. But we have the option as a taxing entity to purchase at fair market value before it goes to the auction. None of these I would recommend doing that.
Oh, no.
I don't see anybody wanting to buy them from us.
Is that how it works? Is that'd be the only reason to buy them is to sell
We'd have to plan for a public purpose too.
them? Oh,
You know, so the way
So
that
we
the
could
process
trade it,
works
yeah.
is they'll take possession, there'll be an auction in June typically. If it, for minimum bid, doesn't sell in June, there'll be another auction in August typically for minimum sale price. Doesn't sell then, you can walk in and buy it from them up until the end of like the calendar year, at which time they transfer it back to the entities that were owed taxes. So you know, at best case scenario, these would be, you know, probably 3, I would think, that are potential coming back to us. The one does have a very dilapidated shed on it that if the treasurer was okay with, I would like to get the backhoe and a dumpster and take care of. It's an abandoned lot, used to have a single wide on it, single wide's long gone. There's a abandoned falling down shed. We have made multiple attempts to serve the owner of said property with a notice about this, and he refuses our mail from his lovely home in Florida.
So does Steve Pickens doesn't have a problem with us going in there? And
I haven't
tearing
talked
it
to
down?
him yet. I want to get your guys' permission before I talk to him.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
see, if he says you have a right to do it, go ahead and do it. It's
Yeah.
an excellent way to get.
We don't want to buy them.
Yeah, we
So
don't
we're
want to
not
buy
buying,
them.
but you're willing to clean the one.
I'm willing to clean the one.
Okay, cool.
I got a feeling we might be cleaning the other.
That wouldn't bother us either.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time to get it cleaned. I know it costs us money, but it's probably the cheapest way of getting them.
Yeah.
Wipes the rats out of there.
Yes, we can lease vehicles.
Wow.
Well, aren't
Can
you
these-
just speedy?
Can lease vehicles, you said, yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay, resolution 2207.
So we don't- we're done.
It is a time of year where we are able to submit a category B application to MDOT for funding. This is a program that is designed for communities of 10,000 or less. You are eligible to put up to 5 streets on your application. Total ask cannot be more than 250,000. So $500,000 project, because you're allowed to ask for up to half. You've got to cover permitting, engineering, but they'll cover half of all construction. The 5 streets that I would like to submit on our application this year would be mill and fill of clubhouse from Coldwater to the golf course and fairway at the golf course parking lot part. And then a slurry seal, which is a chip coat that's got a seal, so it's a 2 application on top, so it's a smoother, darker surface than the traditional chip coat. And run that on Queensway, all the way from Drew to DeQuesa, do probably all of DeQuesa, and then Bundy down to like Lincoln. As you know from our past meetings, we are having some top issues on Queensway in particular that we need to resolve before winter. So this application would put those projects in the hopper for us. We would look at probably doing the project in red in the fall and then the green probably next spring. So it covers the budget year from the state of Michigan.
So I think we do have the matching funds to do it. If
Correct.
These are all major streets.
Correct.
Yep.
A fairway. It's only 150 feet of fairway.
Okay. Go to it. Do you need us to approve this?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I make a motion.
Oh, that's right. It's a resolution. I'm sorry.
I make a motion to accept resolution 2207.
Motion made by Keel to accept resolution 2207. Is there seconded by Davis? Further discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call please.
Excuse me, Paul Cuny,
Yes,
Al Davis,
Yes.
Charlie Keel,
Yes.
Robert Laraway,
Yes,
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes, Dave Torgerson.
Yes, 7-0, unanimous. Line item 2223.
The village charter requires me to submit a draft budget at the May meeting, no later than the May meeting. Which is what you have in your packet tonight. Typically, the process that the village has followed is the full council kind of reviews the first draft. There's comments made, discussion. The finance committee will meet 1 or 2 times between now and the next council meeting to revise, finalize, and then bring forth a completed budget for the public hearing at the June meeting, which is June 21st this year. You know, the starting point for our budget is always a capital improvement plan. So we have a pretty good host of projects in this year's budget. Some of them are from this year's budget, but we're moving them to next. El Camino's resurfacing being one. We had hoped that would be done by June 30th. Central Asphalt says we need to do it in July. Yeah. End result is not a dollar change difference, is what year you spend the dollars in. Right. Along those lines, though, I had hoped to have Mally's put a new gravel surface on channel at the same time they're out. So I'm not gonna have them come twice. We're gonna do this all at the same time.
Okay.
So that's getting moved forward for that reason. In terms of the street projects, we have the pre-mentioned ones already out there for Queensway, El Camino, or Queensway, El Camino, DeQuesa, Bundy, Fairway. In channel. We're probably due to seal the parking lot here again. I'll do that in the spring. I think it can make it through this winter. But we're definitely due to replace the carpet in this room and the hallway. We're not gonna do the offices. But the carpet in here, we want to do the tiles, the replaceable tiles, in case, you know, there's an issue with one, you can get rid of the tiles of the whole floor. We've had some issues with our accounting software of late. And it is our consensus as well as our IT department's consensus that we need to use a different vendor. And so this proposes to move our accounting from fund balance to BSNA. BSNA is who we have our taxes through, and all of Isabella County does. So this would bring both of those into the same software platform. We do need to do some landscaping here at the office, trees out back, some stuff out front, a little bit of a facelift. We replaced the council chairs last year. We've had comments from the public to replace those chairs.
They get the vote.
So that's in there.
Yeah.
We have the money for the dog park, because we've applied for a grant to do the dog park. I'm not gonna do the desk, I'm just gonna build one. I do that in about 4 hours. Couple things have come up since then. There's, I know, interest from several members of the council to at least pave under the recycling bin at DPW. So that needs to be added to the mix.
It's pavement gonna hold up.
I do kind of agree.
That's what better service.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially when it heats up.
I'm also gonna have Mally throw out a price to do the whole drive. That would be-
Pretty bad.
Yeah, it'll be bad.
Especially
$130 a yard now.
$150 plus.
Something lovely.
Plus about $20 a truck, they're starting to put, you know, fuel cost, load charges. Last year they were 10, and I bet anything now that I'm assuming that they're getting up about 20 bucks. I got a call because I got a bunch, about
Another project that I got numbers on Monday. You know, we've been doing some updating to the building here. We built building 7, it's time to, you know, do some updating, some facelifts, some replacement. One of the things that we've conceptually talked about is getting this out of this room, moving out to the garage. Especially now that we live stream the meetings, you know, this kind of looks unsightly and it's not very functional the way it's at now. To move that out to the garage and also remove the door to Jessica's office and just make that a wall so you'd come in through the front office. JBS quoted us at just over 18,000 to do both of those, which was surprisingly low. Because this building is built on a slab, so you know, you're doing water and sewer, you're gonna be cutting stuff. But yeah, it's a pretty ambitious budget. We are forecasting general fund revenue at just over $500,000. That includes our second ARPA payment at about 87,000. We're projecting to spend, proposing if this first draft, 528,000 out of the general fund. Again, some of this is ARPA money that you have to spend. Major street, 347 coming in. 572 going out. 115 coming in from local, 122 going out. For a kind of a ballpark of about $1 million coming in and 1.2 going out over our 3 funds. Well, again, you know, 400,000 of that is street work that we're looking at. 65,000 is a dog park grant. You know, the budget reflects getting the grant for the other streets. So that's why the numbers are higher, because it reflects, you know, the proposed funding and the proposed project. So if we don't get the funding, we come back and revisit and say when we actually do. But yeah, it's a big budget for us. It really is. But our auditors also told us for 3 years that you need to start spending more money. We certainly have the capability to do that. We still are far over the minimum thresholds we've established internally for fund balance policies. That'll answer questions and finance committee when we can meet and CIP.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Mr. Wolf. All right. Agenda item that was at 1100 Par Drive, right?
No,
Or Clubhouse, I'm sorry. That's it. Peter?
My concern with it, you know, I love the look of their house. I think it's a great looking house. I'm not opposed to having 2 attached garages. I don't think that looks bad either. What I have a problem with is knowingly not following our zoning, building the house anyway, coming to our ZBA meeting, which I took time out of my day to go to, got lied to my face at the meeting about the dates, and then we're just gonna grandfather them in. I think it sets a really bad precedence for anybody who wants to build anything in this community. Just do it and the village can either like it or change the rules or not. And I know, you know, it's an unfortunate situation, but that's what happened. Well, there's two, that's what happened. I mean, if that's okay with everybody else, you know, we can adjourn the meeting and go home, but
I agree with what you're saying.
Totally.
Totally, yes, totally agree, except if we go to court on them, okay? Like Tim has pointed out, we go to court with them. And the judge says, okay, you got something out here, you know, because Scott's gonna bring it up, you guys are looking at this and that. And then the judge is gonna say, is that true? Yes. And he'll, Scott will defer it until it's the last minute or ask for depositions and all that to stall it. And what we end up doing, Brent, in that one is we pay a lot of legal fees and we end up losing anyway.
cost of doing business.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta enforce it. I mean,
Well,
what's
I mean,
the point
you-
of having an attorney if you're not gonna use it?
But no. What I'm saying to you is we go through the whole thing and I don't think it'll ever get enforced. Because unless there is an exception there, if we don't approve the double driveways, then we do have, okay, because that thing, but as far as going out there, I think we're wasting time doing it because I don't think it's gonna ever, we can go through the process, but it will never pan out if we do approve it.
I'm thinking long-term, there's gonna be ripple effects by allowing that to stick.
So if we go to court, are you saying then what we should do is not recommend in the future allowing that? Because that's the only way we're gonna get it approved, because the judge is gonna say, if you're sitting here and you're gonna approve it in 2 months.
All this stuff is dated, you know, is there a flower pot in front, is there a large flower box in front of the door?
I haven't let it, was off yesterday.
Oh, I haven't seen one.
I rode by today.
No flower box?
Yeah. Let me go back and give him a deadline at this point in time.
I'm just saying that,
I get it, that's what you're saying. I don't disagree with what you're saying.
I understand completely. I agree with you 100%. You know, here, you wasted your day when, you know, you could have been at work doing stuff and you took time out of your day and others on the committee. And you're right, people can abuse it that way. But when I look at what the lawyers are gonna do and what's actually gonna happen, we can go through the process, pay our attorneys to do it and fight it. And then the judge is gonna say, well, yeah, but you're gonna change it. We're not gonna do nothing here.
it's on the table being changed because of the situation that arose to begin
No,
with.
no, I'm the one who brought it up and said it, and I'll be honest with you, I told Tim, it is not because of Scott and Landa. I think those things should be changed because I think that's the right way to do it.
I think so too,
Okay,
but I'm just saying, they didn't do it under the current code.
and I agree with you 100%. I cannot argue against you at all. I agree 100%,
Can
but
we
I
fight
don't
'em?
think the court's gonna do anything for us.
Well,
There's a little bit of court.
I might be wrong, Tim.
I mean, if
I
that's
could
what
be
it's gonna,
wrong.
how it's gonna be, I mean, I don't wanna sound like a quitter, but I'm not gonna waste my time at ZBA meetings and go to that and get lied to. I tried every way possible. I wrote down all the dates and I tried to connect the dots to figure out some way to let them do it because I really wanted to, and we weren't able to reach it. You know, what's the point of going to a ZBA meeting?
I can
If it's just
understand.
gonna get trumped.
Yep, I can
It's like-
understand that too.
Paul, how long did your battle with the municipality over a garage last?
Quite
So legal process.
Well, let me put it this way, it cost me $22,000, so you know I spent some time on that. It was over a year fighting that. Yeah, and I mean, it ended up coming into the village one. But then.
Disagree with that and what you have.
No, but
Fair
I
minds
could have,
disagree.
the other thing I could have done, but I did not do because of my wife, and only because of my wife, and it's partly her and my full and Kay putting away is, I could have appealed it too. Now, that would have been another year of doing it. And I was bound and determined that I was going to win on that one, and I was gonna do it, but then I started thinking to myself, wait a minute, it's my wife. I'm spending her money too, not just mine, and she didn't want the hassle.
So if someone like knows they're gonna build something, and if you're building a project right now with construction prices the way they are,
Mhm.
interest rates, whatever you wanna
Right.
have into it, you just figure an extra 20 grand in legal fees and you can just make it happen. If I want a huge barn.
Oh, no, because they won on that.
Yeah,
It cost me 22,000. I don't know what it cost the village.
I'm confident that we would win in court.
$22,000.
The problem is we're
And
not
I
gonna win in
lost.
court until,
Pardon?
we would win in court. The issue is we're not gonna win in court until the summer of 2024, probably. At least spring of 2024.
Right.
I mean,
On the
aren't
clubhouse.
you, wouldn't you be upset that the village fought you, but they're not gonna fight him? You spent 20 grand, like I tried to bore under the road and I got shut down, if we're just gonna be able to do things and we'll change the rules later, then
So Tim, you think we will win on Scott Manor?
We would,
Huh?
we would,
Okay.
but we're not gonna get in before the ordinance changes. And now
Right.
you have another issue that if you don't change it because of this discussion, you open yourselves up to greater liability
Okay.
by having this discussion tonight.
Oh, because I had mentioned something. Oh,
Now they're gonna say that we didn't do it just because they talked about it. That this wasn't gonna be an issue until the council discussed it in this form, this way,
I'm sorry.
because they singled it out for a
I
specific
apologize
issue.
to the council. I didn't even think of that. I didn't. Sorry, Tim.
I mean, like I said,
I guess I opened up a can of worms.
I think their house looks awesome. I
Yeah.
think it should be definitely passed in the future. I just think that
And I agree with
you can't just do that.
No, and the issue on why it happened on our end too was that because of COVID, the council gave everybody 18 months to complete their permits. So that's what it allowed it to go into May of this year, where it would have to be done by November of last year. And we
Yeah,
certainly
and
would have
then it
taken
would
action
have
then.
been that issue.
Yeah.
Because then we had it because we weren't even
Yeah.
talking. Nothing.
Because you can't go before that, because they'll say, well, we still haven't, we've got 18 months on our permit to get this done.
Yeah.
So. No, I agree 100% that in a perfect world, we should go after and enforce it. I don't see a winnable solution right now based on the timeline of how the ordinance rewrite is happening.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It shoes at your craw to have somebody come in and do that to you and turn right around, and keep going with it. It just,
I mean, I'm not mad at them or anything about the project. I'm talking about future considerations, because like once somebody gets away with it, then
oh, yeah.
yeah, well, you just go to the planning commission, tell them, change the rules.
I think the council's made it abundantly clear that they're not going to be interested in zoning amendment changes after we do the update. And that was the guiding direction from this body, is do a big one and be done.
Repercussions of getting COVID.
Is there a direction change the council would like me to make?
So the plan is to make them do what right now? Flower box.
They're supposed to do something. We suggested a large flower box to make the garage inaccessible to motor vehicles, because that is the defining term of what makes something a garage in our ordinance, is that it has to be accessible to motor vehicles from the driveway.
Here's one way I think we could slap their hand,
Mhm.
but still do it. Is we say a certain size box and not make it cheap. I mean, maybe it costs them $400 or $500 to put the thing down there, they still get their way, but they're gonna have to pay a little bit. You know, not just say a flower box, I see him go and get a little tiny flower box, stick it in front of the door and say, yep, there's my flower box, you know. Maybe get some, maybe get a cement one, maybe get something that you can't use. You know, kind of, at least,
I would at least say, give them a deadline.
Yes.
Oh, they,
Yeah.
yeah, a
And
deadline,
I-
and I think.
it's gotta be done pretty quick.
So what if?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and if.
If they don't want.
Yeah. Because it does become an issue, if we make rules and then you don't follow them, so we change the rules. That's not why we did it, but still,
Same issue we've got with zoning.
Yes,
enforcement, Banging
that's
his
right,
head against
that's
the wall.
Same.
Courts
Yes.
will back up.
that's a good
Yeah.
point too, yeah,
They're not gonna do anything. And
Yeah.
the people are starting to
Good
realize
point.
that anyway.
yeah.
You write me all the tickets you want. I'm not gonna pay them and you're not gonna do anything. They know.
Look at the blight tickets.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
got, we got people out there that had 8 tickets, 9 tickets. Turned into court. And they're just ignoring them. And for the next 2 years, they're gonna get away with it.
Why is that, Bob? I guess I've missed it.
The courts are backed up.
Oh,
Because of
course.
COVID, they didn't take
Not
anything
because
on.
of us. It's-
Now they got 2 years
Yeah.
cases to hear,
I see,
and we come in, well, you're, get in line.
I see.
Unfortunately,
Take a
I
letter,
don't
because
want
we
to
run
lose
out of
you
numbers.
on zoning. I know it rankles you.
Yeah, I mean, we,
And really consider, you know, this is a tough one. I understand, I've been there. And I understand wanting to just go. But we're gonna lose on this one, I think. I think you just have to give him a deadline and do it, and I don't know, what can we do after that? So he doesn't do it on the deadline? What's our legal recourse? Same thing?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, you're gonna have to serve them.
Yeah. And then we'd have to go to court. There we go. And then you're gonna, like Paul said, oh, you're gonna change the ordinance.
And he could file for after
Harassment.
June. He could file for another variance because we have that in our ordinance. And under the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, the variance appeal stays all enforcement activity.
Wait a minute. Help me on that, I guess I'm.
Our ordinance prohibits the filing of the same variance within a 12-month period. His case went before the ZBA last June.
Oh,
So if he were to refile in July, the law is clear. The ZBA application stays all enforcement activity. So it delays it again.
I didn't know that.
Do it every year.
Damned if you
potentially.
do, and damned if you don't.
We're gonna have a flower pot on that damn thing if we have to take it down there and sit it there.
With the difference, this being,
I don't care.
this time, he doesn't have an open permit. The permit's closed at that point, which is why we had the attorney send the letter.
When was the letter sent? I've forgotten.
Went out the first week of May. His permit deadline was May 2nd or 3rd, something like that.
Got a piece of, like a trailer or something, we could just borrow from you and put it right in front of his garage.
Yeah.
We got a big trailer.
We'll give you $1.
All right,
right over the
so-
trailer.
I'm sorry that was so negative about that.
yeah, and
And
like,
you're-
like I
you're-
said, I don't want it to be like a personal attack. It's more of like a ripple effect
I
that if you're,
understand.
Right.
you know, if you're willing to deal with the legal fees on the back end, then just do what you want. Maybe the village does something, maybe they don't. Maybe you get lucky and you don't have to spend the 20 grand.
Well,
If
the
you're
thing
gonna-
is, though, this was a change that was in. If we didn't have that change in there, he wouldn't have any legal right to stand on.
Yeah.
If we didn't, but we were making a change and, you know, it's out
Snuck
there.
in.
Yeah, so we're kind of stuck on that one. If he didn't, we weren't making that change, Patty. We could go after him and we definitely win him. You know, we would go after him.
You talked about writing in the letter, giving a time frame. What if, what if, you know, you request that he doesn't use the garage until it is settled?
That's what the obstruction solution was to do.
Right,
Yeah.
but he can still use it for storage.
Yeah,
But
he can
what
still do
I'm
that.
saying
Yeah.
is so that he can't use it completely. Nothing in the garage or in front of the garage until it's.
So you got, say a 5/8 drywall in the ceiling of that for fire rating? Garage then, you know, it's a fire rated drywall and you know.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is if we ask him to prohibit use until this is.
I don't care to like hand slap them or anything like that. That's not my point. It's the
No, he's
ripple
talking
effect.
about-
Right.
That's-
Down the
Down the
line.
line, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, other things, not, you know, whatever. Like I said, I like it. I think it's cool and I think it should be in our zoning, but.
You know, and
Well, it comes down to principle.
comes down to principle, but it also comes down to, you know, the larger discussions that planning commission and council had going back to 2020 with the garage issue, you know. There were changes made that would make certain projects not eligible to happen in the way they are today. And, you know, that brought forth a whole lot of discussion on what do we want the entirety of the zoning ordinance to be? What do we want it to look like? And that's when, you know, the council said, you know, we're not gonna piecemeal section by section. We're gonna do the entire thing. We're gonna take our time and we're gonna get it done the way we want it, and we're not gonna mess around anymore with it. Because one of the problems that we had was our zoning ordinance wasn't ours. It was adopted in 1998, 2 weeks after we incorporated, and it still had Sherman Township and Isabella County written in spots. You know,
Yeah.
you adopted something, or our forefathers did, to have a zoning ordinance in place to specifically address a development issue in the southeast corner or southwest corner of the lake. They didn't have a master plan to adopt the zoning code off of, you know, and we did a lot of faceless over the years.
Well, there's a, I mean, we're still in the infant stage of being a village. Oh my God. That way. I mean, there are things that come up that we didn't think of. You know, and Jim said we had to piece it together from something.
It's definitely part of it.
Yeah.
I've been there, you know, when you start from scratch, you don't make up your own rules and you revise them, so.
And there's also been a very different philosophy, I'd say, in the last 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
You know, when I've been here 18 years, and the zoning ordinance that I inherited as your ZA, and that the planning commission tweaked throughout the years, had a far more restrictive slant to it. And it came out of a mentality of, you know, a desire to be more in line with what the original developers had proposed Lake Isabella to be, and a lot was, you know, gonna be modeled after Canadian lakes. You know, that became apparent over time that that wasn't organically who we were as a community. And our zoning ordinance never changed to reflect that. I think these changes will, the most important changes being taking property that's zoned LR1 right now that shouldn't be zoned LR1, and putting it into appropriate district based on size, based on platting, based on character.
We've
Because
always fought that, different
We've
areas.
always tried to make everything fit into a 75 by 150 box,
Right,
and this is not right.
right. All right. Okay, public comment, any public comments?
Real quick, from listening, and I intend on winning, so I'm listening, because I'll be here a lot more often when I win. For the Property Owners Association and the village to get together, as somebody that's done some budget stuff over the years, I don't believe in the 8.5% inflation number. Maybe it's just me, but both sides need to understand and look at each other and go, so we want this to cost $200,000-300,000 more than it should to dredge the lake? Because that's gonna be the effect, or we're gonna lose grant ability, because the state is flushing COVID money now, but it won't be in 3 years. It won't be.
Thank you.
Ed Bayless, 1020 F6. Comment on Brent.
what you brought up. How did this gentleman get this permit to build this garage? This second garage?
His application was a storage area. He said he wanted to convert it to a garage, was told no, so he went to the ZBA.
Any other public comment?
Well, I got another comment too, very similar. Last night, I put my first $100 bill in the gas tank.
I did that twice yesterday.
And it's gonna get worse. I'm working a part-time job now. Okay, I work at the Myers. I've seen several of you come through. I've been not only working on the floor, but at times I cashier when necessary. And I'm seeing people $300-400 a week for groceries. What they're doing is they're living on their credit cards. And sooner or later, they're gonna max out those cards. And when that happens, I have no idea what's gonna occur. And when all these proposals come up about any increase in taxes, people, that's the only time that people can retaliate against the authoritarian government. And when they start having to put that $100 bill in the gas tank, when they start having to shell out living on the credit cards when they can, they're gonna just say no. That's gonna happen soon.
I'll wait until you're done, so, sorry.
I'm done.
Okay, mine was the same thing and along the lines of the community improvement program, there's a lot of other things I wanted to say without limiting it to just this. I think the village's main concern, I'm all for the project. I understand why you stepped down from one to the other to try to keep things cheaper. Even though if you looked at the thing, it was only $20 a year difference between one interest rate versus another, but okay. Police patrol, I agree, we would like to see that continue, see that becoming something that we would do a village for. But I think our most important thing we have to keep in mind is our streets. That to me is our number one obligation as a village here. And if you remember correctly, back in 2002, 2003, when we started all of this, the original fight we had from everybody who didn't want to spend the money. So I think one of our biggest things as we go forward to start letting the people know about this project is that we have to be completely upfront with what the costs are gonna be, because that's what's gonna decide that, like you said, with inflation right now, that does worry me, whether we're gonna be able to get this passed or not. But if you remember correctly, when we had those meetings at the community building, stuff like that, people were wishy-washy or back and forth, but I think the biggest thing that eased their mind is when we, and I'll say myself, went up on the thing and talked to people and said, if you want to know how much it's gonna cost for your special assessment in this process, I have a whole list here. You could actually come up and I'll tell you exactly how much it's gonna cost you for doing this stuff. That, when people came up and found out how much they were gonna have to be charged for this, they were like, oh, sure, I'm fine with it. Let's do this, because now I know how much it's gonna cost me. And I could, in the special assessment, they could pay it off early. So we have to make sure that we do that with this capital improvement thing as well. We have to be flooding information out to the village, get them as much information to the point where they're saying, yeah, I know all about it. If we're gonna have any chance to pass this and all. So I'll be one of them out there doing that, but I just want to remind you guys what it took us to get the major streets through, you know, that kind of stuff.
That was the plan.
It was the
Same.
plan.
That's our
We got
plan.
slapped
Right,
last week.
But I don't love the idea of the LIQA dragging the feet and all that stuff, and I'll have enough to say to them on my own afterwards too, for doing that kind of stuff too. But I really appreciate you. Hopefully you can get their majority of their board to meet with you guys at the same time. I'm pretty confident in saying you've got 3 definite, I want to do this votes on their board. You only need 2 more to get the majority. So yes, thank you for doing that meeting. Hopefully that meeting takes place.
Any other public comment? Okay. Council comments? Ed? Appreciate all the feedback. And our next meeting is June 21st, isn't it?
Correct. So liaison committee, whatever, supposed to meet June 1st at 9 a.m. We'll touch base and see how that's gonna work. If maybe in the evening might be better since we're gonna try and do everybody. Planning commission meets June the 14th at 7 p.m. Village council, June 21st at 7 p.m. Fireworks are planned for July 2nd at dusk, which is about 10 o'clock for those who want to know. We are currently accepting applications for a code enforcement position. We are currently accepting applications to serve on the planning commission, ZBA, and board of ethics. And we're also able to distribute nominating petitions for anyone who wants to run for the village council this year. 4 seats will be up. Deadline to file is July 26th at 4 p.m. I have them here if anybody wants to take one with them.
All right. Anything else? We stand adjourned.